spirit releasement shenanigans.
Another headline, another flash, another crisis moving fast. They sell it like it's breaking through, but it all feels slightly used. Different faces, different sides, same old script, they're running live. You scroll it down, you feel the weight, like you've seen this play before. Today, it's not the noise, it's how it flows, like something underneath it knows. Same story, new name, different fire, same flame. You can feel it when it hits, like it's already been written. This isn't chaos on the screen, it's a pattern in between. You don't need them to explain, you can see it's the same story, new name. Every angle, every frame, every outlet sounds the same. They divide it, draw the lines, keep you locked in real time. But the cracks are getting loud, you can see it in the crowd. Something's shifting out of view, and it's pulling you through. It's not a theory, it's not a guess, it's the shape inside the mess. Same story, new name, different fire, same flame. You can feel it when it hits, like it's already been written. This isn't chaos on the screen, it's a pattern in between. You don't need them to explain, you can see it's the same story, new name. They don't hide it, they just move it, shift the language, repackage, prove it. You were never meant to trace the line, but now you see it every time.
Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there,
How dare you!
all guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You talk about extreme.
If knowledge is a crime, we were guilty from the start. They don't fear the questions, they fear the spark. So we steal the fire, not to rule, not to reign, just to see through smoke and mirrors and call the beast by name. They call it dangerous thinking, they call it heresy. But fire doesn't fear the dark, it
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hey, hold out that glass, baby, because you know what time it is. We're about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I am your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey, if you are new to this channel, welcome to the hero's journey. But please be sure and hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. And while I got your attention, guys, please check out this banner down below with all of our social medias at their various platforms. That would be much, much appreciated. Well, man, guys, crazy day. I was talking to our guest kind of behind the scenes in the green room, I guess you could say, about all the crazy stuff going on. And I tend to stay in my little rabbit holes, so I don't watch the news, and I'm not up to date on all this stuff. So all this stuff breaking out about Christian influencers and UFOs is all just kind of flooding into my feed, and I'm like, my head's spinning. I've already been texting Alberino and Jamie Walden. I'm like, guys, my head's spinning, update me here. So I'm waiting to hear back from some people, but apparently I'm just behind is what it is. I'm out of the know. I'm not in the cool crowd. But hey guys, we got a great show for you lined up. This is going to be a part 2. I had this gentleman on last week, so he wanted to come on and do a 3-part series, so this is part 2. So I'd like to welcome back to the show Mr. Seth Kicklighter. Mr. Seth, how are you doing today, sir?
I am amazing, brother. Thank you for asking. I am fired up and a little bit actually exhausted from a lot of pods this week, but that's a good thing, right?
Oh, yeah. When I wrote my book, I was like, I could easily do, 2 or 3 interviews a day on Friday, Saturday, Sunday when I'm off my factory job, and no, I found out real quick after maybe a week of that. I was like, oh man, I've overdone myself.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to be doing right now, and non-stop information flow that we have to form into our minds with a million other things. So yeah, it's a constant battle, man. But Lord's got us protected, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, man. Well, before I pick your brain on the current events, and then we I want to slip into the subject matter at hand here, but maybe for those that's stumbled across this live or channel for the first time, didn't catch our first discussion, I definitely recommend you go back and check that one out. But just introduce yourself to those people, who you are, what you do, and your book, brother.
Yeah, my name is Seth Kicklighter. I am a young man who is an author now, Spirit Realm Shenanigans, an unhinged rant exposing the psychic fabrications of discarnate dweebs and Nephilim nitwits. And, I like to keep my book pretty goofy and entertaining, along with dark and, very elaborate and complex. So check it out if you want the more nuanced conversation of what we're talking about today. If you want to find my book or any of my work, you can go to my Linktree, which is linktree.com/Sethlehem, Bethlehem with a Seth. If you want my social media, it's X. That's where I get all crazy and theoretical about my crazy beliefs. And Instagram, they're both Sethlehem, Sethlehem _ on Instagram. And in those bios, you will see my Linktree, which connects to my book on PayHip. You can buy directly, or on Amazon, and you can get on my audiobook, which is free completely on Spotify and YouTube. And there's funny voices for all the characters I'm quoting. It's a fun time. And you can watch all my podcast link there. You can find my playlist with all my bangers. My favorite content is linked. I like to be very detailed in there. So find me on there, guys.
All right. Hey, Seth, if you could, man, I got some people in the chat saying that your volume's pretty low, and I'm looking on my screen.
Yeah.
I got you maxed on my end, but you're only going maybe halfway up the bar there.
I can go up more, but let me know how I am right now. Be honest, I can take it.
Yeah, if you come up some more, possibly. It come up a little bit on the gauge.
I still have room to go. I just didn't want to max out if it's unsafe.
Yeah.
You think that's all right?
You're just barely touching the yellow. That's the sweet spot.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Nice. Well, man, before we get into the subject of the matter, because I know some people probably stumbled across this thumbnail and was like, oh, my God.
It's very aggressive.
What's going on here? What is your opinion? I have to bring it up with all the stuff going on. UFOs, the Christian influencers pulled into this kind of quote-unquote secret meeting with, they ain't mentioned him, but I'm pretty sure it's Ted Burchett from Tennessee.
Tim Burchett.
All this stuff going on What's your thoughts, opinions, man?
I mean, I have complex views here. I think, for one, no, I don't trust the government plugs for this information. I'm not saying they're all nefarious, but if whoever they're getting their information from is, and there's going to be a lot of half-truths and all disinformation out there, so it's going to be a lot of true stuff that we know and can validate or can assume, and then it's going to be poison in 10, 20% or somewhere near there. Now, and the poison is the important part that we should be focusing on. Now, they're hanging out with these Christian pastors, and people are saying, oh, well, they're going to tell us that, the seated here, and it's the age Gnostic kind of viewpoint, dismissing God's hand in our creation, old earth, all that stuff that goes along with it. And I could see that happening. I also have a suspicion that there's going to be a mixture of things here. I think that the administration is publicly Christian and using scripture and all these things. And, if anybody's the Antichrist, it could be Trump. Yeah, absolutely. If not, he's the, John the Baptist for the guy. But this administration is not Christian in a literal way at all, but they want people to think that. And a lot of people don't believe it, but a lot of people do. So are they going to cater to a Christian narrative and go the alien demon route? Maybe the more literal, angels and demons that are in spaceships only, and they're like the Alberino route, which, I don't agree with. I'm more of a meat suit guy myself for a lot of reasons, but I think they're going to potentially give out stories through different groups and say, oh, no, it's the Christian validated version without the meat suit theory, which is an important semantic difference, or they're going to give other people the more Gnostic route, more New Age Gnostic information route. And I think it's going to be a battle of both sides, which it's already been. But I think government sources will be part of portraying both, and it'll be different people infighting in the government saying, no, it's actually this, and no, they're lying to you, and it's going to be confusion, like chaos magic, mass confusion, validation on both sides, and then attacks on both sides. I think Christians ultimately are going to be hated for their views ultimately, and I think if I can keep ranting for a moment on this, I think that the Jews who apparently rule the world exclusively, they don't like to use the word Nephilim, but they say Jews, and, we can talk about the Edomite, Idumean imposter part all day, but, they apparently rule the world, but the algorithms that have led the mass awakening to believe this have also been run by Jews, apparently, and they really want us to hate them right now, and it's like, well, why does the rulers of the world want us to know that Jews rule the world so badly and desperately that they're giving us reverse psychology-esque intel leaks to make us come to these conclusions? It's because I think it's, the biblical thing of the Jews becoming more hated in the end times, and they're helping promote that, because one day, I think when the aliens show up in the not too distant future, they're going to have good cop, bad cop. It's always Hegelian dialectic, have hero and villain, and it might be a timeline war where the sexy Nordics are the good guys, which is pre-programmed in the lore, and the bad guys are the grays and mantids, reptilians, etc., who are grouped together, or maybe multiple factions, but they're all bad guys, and they're going to say, I think when Gog and Magog happens and God supernaturally saves Israel in that could be pre-tribulation or during, but I believe it's pre. And if that happens, which is geared up to happen in the near future with the way the alliances are stacking up, I think, aliens, bad cop, will take blame for God's supernatural hand saving them. And when that happens, people are going to go, oh boy, does that mean the aliens are using Jews as proxies to infiltrate our world? And that explains why they rule things, because they have to give some great reveal. And that will be the reveal, I think, that, oh, it's them, and then we have to now attack Israel collectively. And that's my summation of my mediocre understanding of end times lore, adding with conspiracies of aliens and the whole pre-programmed narrative going on with good cop, bad cop aliens, which I've read enough channeled lore and astral information to know what they're pre-programming, and I believe that makes a lot of sense, and it's all a big psyop. So be careful about the mass awakening right now, because it's filtered in a very specific way.
Yeah, and that's something that honestly needs a hour and a half or 2 hour discussion to break all that stuff down, but I just wanted to kind of get your rough opinion of it. And
I gave you a very crazy quick version.
No, I'm still trying to form mine. I don't want to speak so boldly, and
I'm just saying screw it, man. I'm just going crazy.
Well, no, I mean, you're more informed on it than I am. Like I said, I'm kind of lost on the current news and the loops of things, but I do know that if the government is telling you something, or even anybody of power is telling you something, there's always a motive. So I'm not, I'm not one of these guys that, there's a lot of people coming out and saying, oh, all these pastors that they talked about, are government shrills, and they're,
well, a lot of them are apparently
and...
Zionists, so that's not ideal, and that makes sense with the narrative portraying. So they're using them as pundits potentially because of their Zionist views, and then they might give them some pro-Christian narrative to dispel, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, the Jews controlled that narrative, and that's actually the proxy of the aliens, and that. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but that's kind of the narrative I could see forming around that. Is it's intentionally going to be shit on by everybody else, and they're going to hate on Christians for believing government propaganda kind of thing. I don't know. I think it's reverse psychology, like a lot of psyops right now.
Yeah,
but I'm
like
scared,
I said, I
paranoid,
wasn't in that group, or I don't want to come out and just do that right out front because I don't know. But
smarter than I then.
No, but the thing I can speak to is the character of Jamie Walt, and I don't know all those other guys
I love
that
Jamie.
well, but Jamie, he's a warrior for God. He's a solid dude. He would never work for the government or be some kind of shrill to backstab our religion or our faith or anything like that. So I think he's a solid dude. But like I said, it's just, I think if some organization or group is calling some kind of meeting and trying to construct some kind of narrative, we have to stop and ask why, because there's a reason for this. But I seen on, I think it was Facebook, Jamie had shared one of the posts talking about that stuff, and he said that, his informed opinion was it was all on Apophis and Tom Horn's prediction about this asteroid, wormwood in Revelation that's headed to Earth and all
I'm
that.
all over
that's the reason SpaceX was launched, right after that and everything else. So, but anyways, I know it's hard to walk away from that, but okay. So we talked about your book and some of the themes in it, and we ended that show with a clip of Dan Duval weirdly praying against reptilians and all kinds
Octopus Council.
Octopus Council and all this kind of crazy stuff at the end there. And so that was like a little teaser for this one. So this one is the defamation trial of Dan Duval. So here you go. The court is in session. We may hear your plea, sir.
That's right. Yeah, man, I've had a gripe with this man for a while. I've made him my arch nemesis one-sided, and I'll be honest with you before I get into this. I've recently had a contact that is in, I would say, decent good friend, or at least knows him very well, has his contact. And I asked him, I said, get me in touch with him. I want to send him a letter or like an email, and I already have it written up, and I'm going to be very, very, very honestly apologize for my shitting on him that I've been doing in these podcasts and say, hey, I've been assuming, because I want to get this out of the way, I've been assuming his nefarious intent for a while now, because when you read some of the details, you might assume, like at first, okay, you were deceived by demons, and that's what we're going to be getting into. And, I lean towards the idea that he knows what he's doing is wrong now in a cult. But it's very, very technically possible that he is incredibly deceived and, also influenced by these entities, of course. And because of that, he might genuinely believe he's working for the Lord. He says he does, but it's hard for me to figure this out. When you read the details, when we get into it, you're going to be like, is this guy nefarious or is he really, really deceived? And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to try to get in contact with him and see how he reacts. If he tries to get any legal stuff involved, we'll see what happens. But I'm giving him an opportunity to come clean and be like, hey, you can use this as a testimony to repent and be like, this is how deceived I was, and this is how much power the demonic deception is having, and he can switch sides and do the right thing here, and I very much hope he does, and I'm praying for him out of love. But I wrote him a letter that's very, very tough love type dad energy, and it's funny coming from me probably, but so I'm gonna get in touch with him soon, hopefully, and see how that goes. And if I need to go ramp up the aggression because of his poor response that might happen, we will do that. But I'm going to try to be as nice as I can today and assume the best. But it is going to get kind of crazy and insane. And I guess, do you have? I want to give you the 1,000-foot overview, I guess, about what we're talking about today, because this is, unless I skip through some parts, which we're totally welcome to, let me know. How I structure this presentation is spending the first half on New Age and Gnostic healing methods, which I'll break down in a minute. And then the second half or so is all Dan Duval. And you have to do the first half with the other practice, because what I'm doing is cross-examining these two practices and showing they are the same thing, rebranded by demons, giving lore that's different to different people, catering a Christian narrative to this man, but it's also mixing in, using it as a bridge to the New Age and Gnostic narratives coming out by combining the two worlds in ways that aren't compatible biblically. So I hope that makes sense, and you let me know if you have any questions, brother.
Nope, the floor is yours, and like I said, I don't want you to cut it short, and we will be good Bereans, and we will hear out this matter,
right.
and then search the scriptures to see if it is so.
That's right. I love it, man. Well, anyway, so yeah, it's a decent presentation here, pretty detailed and convoluted at times. So I'm pretty good at explaining it by now. But if you have any questions, interrupt me and yell at me and slap me around, and I'll totally answer whatever questions, because it is kind of hard to follow at times. But I think I got it down to a science now. So what we're going to be breaking down today is, I guess before I go into it, I should mention the first episode we covered the astral simulation theory and how the astral realm is, in my opinion, the astral realm that we visit. I'm not saying there's no spirit realm, but whatever we're visiting in our astral travels, astral projections, are entity facilitated, controlled simulations, lucid dreams that they control every detail of. And I made sure I was thorough. And if you don't believe me, watch the first episode. But they control every character that you're speaking to, every visual, every sense of all your whatever senses are present at the time, which is a combination. They control your lucidity if they want to, your intuition, your inner thoughts. And I'm not saying every little thought you have is not your own, but they can influence every single one and guide you completely. And they choose where you go and what you see and what you learn, and they admit to this at times, saying, yeah, this is a simulation we're putting in as a test. Oh, but no, this is a real astral realm. But we can control the simulations perfectly to where you can't tell the difference. And everybody says it feels realer than reality, even the simulations. So keep in mind, this is the bedrock of the information for this part, because the holistic healing we're talking about has visions accompanying the healings. So, and they are the same rules, except visions we're talking about here are like remote viewing style, inner third eye, not out of body. So it's way less immersive, way lower, I like to say, CPU requiring than astral travel. So if astral travel is so detailed and controlled as it is, you need to understand that these visions people are getting are much easier to accomplish on the demonic deception side, which astral travel's mastered and perfected for them. So I'm just letting people know, if you think remote viewing data is legitimate and can be trusted, but this can't be, then you're going to be, totally deceived there, because it's all the same weapon here. Trance state related things. So keep that in mind. Watch episode 1 if you don't believe me. But we're going to get into, I'm going to talk about the sources really quick of what I'm using, which is a couple. We're using not only Dan Duval's ministry, which I'm taking all of his verbatim quotes I've scattered and found from his interviews, podcasts, presentations, not from his book, because his book came out, his pre-Ademic book came out after mine did, so I don't have that ready. But I have enough gathered from his interviews. So I don't. But the other sources are books, and it's William J. Baldwin's Spirit Releasement Therapy Manual. That's the main one. And coinciding with it is Shakuntala Modi's Remarkable Healings. They have the same exact lore. The manual is more teaching, and the Shakuntala Modi's is more testimony, transcripts, stories. So they're the same stuff, essentially. And then we're using Baldwin's other book, CE6, Close Encounters of the Possession Kind, which is the alien side of this, which is channeled aliens, apparently, and what they're saying. And that has some very crazy insights. It is one of the hardest books to acquire. If you want the book, I have a PDF I can send you. It is not easy to find.
So Dan Duval and this stuff we're covering, it's actually in your book? This is not something
yes,
that you just
all of this is in my book.
Observed and wanted to talk about. Okay.
All of this is recorded in my book, everything I'm talking about today, except
Yeah,
like one or two things I gathered after the fact.
Okay. Now, this is a guy that I've never, I know he's been around and going on a lot of big name shows, but I've never watched him. I've seen clips.
He's blowing up right now.
And even me, like even the clips I see, I'm just like, man, this guy, I mean, I try not to be judgy, but I got a pretty good nose for bullshitters and
I know it.
Fakes, and as soon as I seen him, I was just like, something's off with that guy. And I could be wrong. I'm human, you know what I mean? But So I don't know what he talks about. I don't know, what he's done, who he's helped, who he's hurt. I don't know. I just know what little bit I've seen from clips of him talking crazy stuff. So I got some people in the chat, that are loyal listeners, and they're there every week. I love them to death. Are kind of getting a little bit defensive because I guess they like this person and they're talking.
Oh,
about,
yeah, he's got some fans.
know,
Hey, guys, if
talking
you're
about his
listening, please
victims
stay
and
for the
astral
entire
projection.
episode. And yeah, if anybody's listening and they're a fan of Dan and they think I'm being very problematic here, please listen to the whole thing. You will 100% be convinced that I have something to offer here, information-wise, and that he is deceived by demons. And my whole thing is these practices I'm going over, the details of them, cannot coexist and both be healing people, yet they both heal people. And it's not true healing and permanent, but we'll get into that detail later. They cannot coexist. And this stuff is very underground. The spirit releasement therapy stuff was somewhat big in small pockets around the country in the 80s, 90s, but I can't find anybody talking about it today because I think the practitioners practicing it died and it stopped continuing, probably because a lot of spiritual warfare involved in it. But I'm just saying, listen to the whole thing before you just assume I'm some asshole, because I do look like one, but I'm not, potentially. And I'm trying to be nice and respectful here instead of as I was before. But yeah, man, did you have anything else you want to say before I go crazy?
No, like I said, I just wanted to get that out there because, like I said, I don't know nothing. I don't know what he does. I just heard him talk some crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
I got a listener in here. I want to throw this comment at you before we get started. She said that if this gentleman knew Dan, he would know that his victims are not astral projecting. They are actual victims of human trafficking, and we are not still traveling on their own.
I'm 70% sure I understand what they're saying, to be honest, but I will say I'm not saying their visions they're having during the healings are astral projections. I'm saying they're pre-consented visions that they consent to when they go into this occult practice, because it is divination what they're doing. And I'm saying that the visions they're getting are deceptive from demons, and because they have visions of Jesus and angels and demons, and they have all these crazy and they travel across the cosmos and to different planets to recover soul fragments. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But it's mind's eye visions, and it's remote viewing essentially, in the mechanics of it, which is like I said, less immersive astral travel. So I'm not saying it's astral travel, but now if you want to say, I'm not saying they're all doing that, but do I think Dan astral travels in his own time? Yes, and I have a clip of him admitting it on the confessionals episode, but he calls it something else. He says it maneuvering the second heaven. He says, no, I don't do the occult practice, but I maneuver the second heaven in Christ. And I'm like, and he said it all like choppy and like nervous, and I'm like, dude, you're admitting to astral travel, and you're saying you're doing it in Christ, so it's okay, and there's no such thing. God will pull you out of your body to take you on a vision quest if you need be, only to further the kingdom, but not you doing some meditation practice or whatever it may be to get out of body. So he admits to it, and I've heard, I don't want to say disclose sources, but I've had people tell me.
I'm guessing people that are human trafficked or SRA survivors and people.
I'm not saying
kinds
that's all
of
fake.
trauma.
That's not what I'm doing.
No. What I'm asking, because I don't know. Does he work with those people and
Yes,
and help those people? Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
a
didn't
problem
even know that.
if I'm right about what I'm saying here is he's reprogramming them into the occult with these practices, and they're not getting spiritual protection because they're doing divination and then slapping Jesus' name on it, so it's okay. And I'll explain. I'll give the 1,000-foot overview, I guess, which is these are practices where the healer or the therapist, Dan Duval or William J. Baldwin, Shakuta Lamoti, whoever it is, they are doing the same thing here. They are getting their patient into a trance state, right? And in this trance state, they are pre-consenting to entity invitation, like a seance, channeling. And I'll get into the differences between them in a second, but they basically channel spirits, and they simultaneously are getting a vision. And if you go to Dan, he'll get certain spirits, and if you go to a New Age practitioner, they will get a bigger array, a cosmologically larger array of spirits that Dan never encounters, such as ghosts. Dan doesn't talk about ghosts because ghosts go to heaven or hell, right? But in New Age Gnostic territory, they go to the higher realms, or they're stuck on Earth because of their addictions or fascinations with material realm. So they'll be stuck on Earth, and you can channel them. So why don't they have any overlap? That's interesting. These people go and to do past life regression alongside the spirit releasement therapy, and Dan Duval, I'll summarize, does pre-Adamic memory access, which is spirit memories from before Adam in the ether or in the astral, whatever. And it's the same concept where people say, oh, well, in my past life, before I was born, I chose my incarnation. I chose how hard my life is going to be or how easy based on what reward I wanted karmically or what reward I wanted in Christ. It's the same concept, but rebranded for Christians, saying, no, I don't believe in past life therapy. And his explanation for how people access past life regression memories is actually really problematic and not using data at all, which I'll break that down later. But anyway, these people go into these therapy sessions and they channel spirits. And in the New Age stuff, they'll say, hey, you need to go. You need to get out of here after talking to them and sharing cosmological information. And they'll do theatrics. It's spirit theatrics. It's all demons masking as ghosts, as demons, but they call themselves dark force entities, a lower intelligence level, a lower evil level, or less nefarious than actual demons. They will cast themselves as aliens, but instead of alien souls, sometimes it is, but most of the time it's etheric technological attachments implanted etherically on you, on your astral body, by aliens who are physically in a lab somewhere, and through that tech attachment you can channel them out of your voice as if they're attached to you like any other entity. That is exactly what they teach. Dan teaches that too, the etheric tech stuff. He maybe not use those words, but he channels aliens, which he believes are not Nephilim in meat suits. He believes they are literal aliens, and we have an expansive universe that is old Earth. And, if you believe in old Earth, I get it. There's a lot of information for it, but, look up hydroplate theory, Brian Nichols' breakdown presentation on YouTube that will open your mind to the young Earth theory and how it can actually be, everything can be explained in that context. But we'll not talk
I love
about that
Walt
today.
Brown. I got an autographed copy.
Oh, hell yeah. I got the book right
behind
behind
me.
me.
Show on that for a while, but yeah, I got an autographed copy. I found it on eBay. I was like,
That's
yes.
gangster, man. Yeah, I printed my own from a PDF because I wanted to spend less money, but I got cool art on it. But yeah, no, I haven't read it yet, but I've watched the hydroplate thing like 3 times. It's pretty gangster.
It answers a lot of questions, don't it?
Answers every question, it seems, that I've had. And then there's more things out there, but we'll get into that another time. Anyway, so this whole thing is theatrics channeling from these entities. Now, the big difference between Dan Duval's and the rest of these is everybody channels through their voice, and Dan Duval says, no, I don't do that. That's a cult. That's divination. I channel, he doesn't use that word, but he says that the difference in his is his patients will go into their mind's eye vision. He calls it the inner world. And in that inner world, those visions I'm talking about are totally controlled, is where you meet your aliens, ghosts, demons, soul fragments as well, which is a crazier thing, which is split off alters of yourself. We'll have that conversation later. But you can channel all these entities, including fragments of yourself, as if they're a separate intelligence. And in his thing, he says, no, I don't channel. I have them talk telepathically in their mind's eye in the visions to these entities, and then they, with their voice, relay the information. So you're basically using a human as a Ouija board, which is the same thing, and taking one step removed to not call it channeling, but it's still channeled information from spiritual contacts. You're just speaking for them instead of speaking out of their mouth. That is the only difference. That is a Ouija board. It's the same thing. Now, he does have a quote that I'll talk about later where he admits to voice channeling, and he might have just 40 and slipped and not meant to say it, but he kind of admitted it in a way that I'm like, he might be doing both, and I believe that's what's happening. I could be wrong there. That's an assumption I'm making based off a literal quote, though. We'll talk about that later. So, is this making sense so far, the whole process, dynamics-wise?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's a little confusing.
Like I said, I heard the little clips and things, and from what you're saying, and from I'm listening to Amy in the chat. She's one of the ones I was talking about there. Love Amy.
Yeah.
But apparently, if I'm understanding right, I guess she's talking about this in the chat because, from my understanding, from what I read, she actually went through one of these with Dan.
Oh, really?
Over a human, I guess, a human trafficking thing. So
yeah. Well, I'm not saying he hasn't helped people and that people don't have less spiritual warfare afterwards. I'm saying it's strategic. This is demonic strategy. if these healings are false, like I'm saying, which we'll get into the evidence for why these are not legitimate, then you are not really spiritually protecting yourself by doing a practice of divination. They are laying off their oppression they've been giving you strategically at the moment the vision ends and the moment that they say they're gone and they've exorcised them. They don't use that word, though, really. Well, Dan, I guess, does probably. But after the whole thing's over, you buy into the cosmology because they're giving you extra biblical, Gnostic adjacent cosmology that promotes a lot of those concepts and like secret space program, expansive universe, literal aliens, infinite life, all that stuff. All these concepts are they're trading your healing for that belief. And it doesn't mean it's permanent because you don't have true Holy Spirit protection after a practice of divination like this. You're actually more open, but they're not going to go and spiritually oppress you right afterwards because you are now believing their slop, which is then gravitating you away from a true biblical understanding, which is worth it to them. It is much more worth it for you to believe incorrectly than to oppress you and make you sad. And if you're an asset and you're promoting
like
this
reward,
material,
time investment kind of thing. I've heard
yes.
Vicky Joy talk about, people that go to the astral realm all of a sudden, like you had mentioned last episode, get kicked out. And it's because, she said, because you either no longer believe their stuff, so you're not going to propagate and promote their stuff, or you are not useful to them as like a celebrity or someone important with influence. So
that's exactly right.
If you're not helping them, then you are gone. But if you are helping them and being a good mouthpiece or whatever, then they'll allow you.
They'll take care of you. They'll take good care.
It.
Yeah, and Dan is, if this is all true, he's one of the biggest assets they have for the Christian movement and deceiving many Christians. And I'm not saying these people are losing their salvation or anything. I'm a once saved, always saved guy. But, they can also deceive many others and guide people coming into Christianity away from it. And they can, just the deception alone can have the great falling away. Now, and then it's the whole, okay, well, what if they take the mark? Are they then losing their salvation? Well, that seems to be implied in the Bible. So we're not going to talk about it, but this deception is worth the trade-off of spiritual oppression, which they don't need to do to everybody. It is more, they want your belief, they want your allegiance over all this other stuff. So they're deceiving Christians heavily. So I think it's all strategic, and like I said, these practices can't coexist and be healing. So I think a lot of the healings are temporary, if people have said that is the case, but I think it's case by case. So you might be having a fine time after your exposure to this practice, but it doesn't mean it's because you're truly healed or, protected. It's a false healing that is trading your belief system. So once you start believing in true biblical things again and get rid of the Duval lore, you might get some more spiritual warfare. I don't know, but it's very possible, is all I'm saying. So I hope that makes sense to people. Let me know if you got anything for me, bro.
No, that's good, man. I didn't mean to hold you up there, but like
no,
I said,
you're good.
I was flying blind there. I wanted a little update.
No, I'm glad we addressed that early on because I meant to do that anyway and I just forget. But yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I got into the manuals. I didn't mention one more, which is the first one we'll be talking about, which is Carl Wickland's 30 Years Among the Dead book. Came out, I think, in 1924. It's the oldest source we're using. And it is 30 years worth of channeling. And the big difference in the other works is it's a similar process, but much less nuanced and complicated as the spirit releasement therapy we'll get into. His whole process is he is with his wife. His wife is the medium, and a patient will come in with a ghost attachment. This man has only channeled ghosts in 30 years. He's never encountered an alien. He's never encountered a demon. He's never encountered he's encountered ascended spirits that will come down, yes, but only ghosts and ascended spirits, which are, humans that ascended mastered themselves, essentially. That's the only thing he's channeled in 30 years. That's a little weird how he's never encountered a soul fragment. He's never encountered a alien or any of those other entities. That is selective, it seems, and this is an older era where things were simpler, and I think they were just catering to the simpler times, honestly, instead of getting really crazy and ahead of themselves before the alien stuff becomes part of the culture, like it did in these later years. Because it wouldn't make any sense, right? So they're catering to the time period of updating with the times. So in his practice, only ghosts in 30 years, and he, instead of channeling through the patient, he is shocking the patient with a little electric device, which doesn't hurt them too much, but it shocks the ghost attachment apparently a lot, and they freak out and leave the body. And then Carl Wickland's medium wife will be there. They're a power couple, right? The medium wife will catch the ghost in her aura and start channeling it like she's a D1 wide receiver catching a football, dude. It's crazy. She then channels them, and they have a conversation with the spirit. And in pretty much 100% of the cases, and I'm reading transcripts from this book. It is conversations, every word detailed and taken to each word. It's verbatim, and it's mostly transcripts of their conversations. And I'm gonna say 99% of these ghosts are absolutely donkey-brained and retarded. They are really dumb and really childish, and they don't share grand cosmology. They are focused on morphine or drugs or sex or whatever addiction has apparently kept them on the earth plane, and they're amnesiacs, and they don't have a sense of time. They don't know how long they've been dead. They often don't know they're dead, and when you ask them their name or who they were, how they died, they eventually remember usually, but it takes them a while to remember. You have to jog their memory. They don't know they're being channeled in a body. Even though they're in a woman's body, they're talking for the first time probably ever. Channeling, they seem to not be aware of it when you're conversating with them. They're just really dumb and not present. And the ghosts in the SRT lore and the demon characters and everybody else, they don't share those traits pretty much at all. They're a little bit dumb and corny sometimes, but they're not total like retards like the ones in the 20s. Maybe you could say, oh, ghosts got a lot smarter in the last 60, 80 years. Sure, yeah, but it doesn't make sense that it's consistent across pretty much every character. Now that's one. So I think they're just catering different narratives and different concepts to different people. Another thing is, what is it? Yeah, so they're all stupid and they don't really spill the beans on elaborate cosmology. But after you send them to the light, which is a metaphysical thing the person is seeing in a vision, they'll see angels come and rescue these spirits and send them to the light. This is what everybody says in all their practices. I forgot to say. But Duval will send demons to the pit. He will banish them to hell, to the pit. So it's the same concept, but just different metaphysical commands to send you to different locations, which you're seeing in the mind's eye. And it's validated because of the vision and because the healing afterwards, which is a full somatic experience they're strategically controlling, in my opinion. So in Carl Wickland's 1920s type stuff, they will spill cosmology whenever it is an ascended spirit who was healed by you originally, and then months later they'll come back and channel through the wife and say, hey guys, remember me? I'm that one retard from before. Thanks so much for healing me. I now understand how silly I was staying on the earth plane and possessing people. Sorry about that. Thanks again. By the way, reincarnation isn't true. Those are spirits impressed upon you by ghost attachments. Like, they'll literally come out of nowhere to say thank you, and also here's some reincarnation lore. And they'll say it's not true. And everybody else in the channeling sphere pretty much admits reincarnation is true, except a few channeled sources, which I'm getting into why they're doing this. Most people, when I bring this up, they're like, well, if they're demons and they're all lying and playing characters, why are they telling you different things? Pro-reincarnation, anti-reincarnation, all these things. It is strategy. This is called strategy. Why didn't they create one religion to counter Christianity? Why did they have to use all these vessels to create so many different various belief systems with very similar beliefs, but overall diverging in incompatible ways? Why did they do that? It's muddying the waters. It is creating various belief systems so that Christianity looks like one in a giant bucket of different belief systems, making it less important and seem more insignificant. And if you do one counter belief system that, counters Christianity, then people are going to easily see it's a demonic deception, as opposed to muddying the waters with all these dozens, hundreds of various belief systems, right? It's strategically better because they know people and they know how dumb they are, and they know that people gravitate towards what makes sense to them, as opposed to cross-examining all these different sources and saying, oh, there's a common deception here, which is what I'm doing. But most people don't have the time or focus or energy to understand these concepts. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I making sense so far?
Oh yeah, because I feel that way with like comparative mythology and things like that. I've told people many times I'm not a real smart guy, and I've never had an original idea, but I do a lot of reading, and where I look at all these different cultures and their legends and stories and mythologies, and where I've read them all, I can connect dots. And where I have a biblical foundation, I can show you how that filters through, the Bible. And that's kind of what I do. I read all this different stuff, and I connect dots, and it sounds like what you've done here.
Yeah, once you cross-examine all these sources, you see a thematic pattern aligning. In my second chapter in my book, I do like 12, I think, different channeled sources, and I cross-examine what they say about Jesus, what they say about demons, what they say about Atlantis, pre-antediluvian stuff, our creation, our origin, all of this stuff. I cross-examine what they say on these topics, and the most popular channeled sources, including regressed and Akashic Records, psychic access stuff, mostly channeled, voice channeling, they thematically align in so many ways, but diverge on the details and so frequently in so many ways they cannot coexist. And they're always attacking Christianity and Jesus. And if they're saying nice things about Jesus, which is often, it'll always be in the ascended master context, the Gnostic context, that he wasn't Yahweh, the demiurge. He was an ascended master, and he was actually against Yahweh. That's what they thematically will push, but the details of how they got there are so different. They're either all lying or one of them's telling the truth, but they're all achieving these deceptions in the same exact way by channeling through whoever's willing to do an occult practice. It's kind of ridiculous. So I wanted to read a little quote just so people know I'm not making stuff up. This is a direct quote from Carl Wickland's work, and I don't know if it's 30 Years Among the Dead or his other books. I forgot, but it's one of them. And he says, the theory of reincarnation can undoubtedly be traced to early stages of mankind when departed spirits took possession of the bodies of sensitive individuals and lived and acted through them, thus seemingly indicating reincarnation. But in reality, this was only spirit obsession or possession. The supposed memories of past lives of those who believe in reincarnation are far better accounted for by the presence of invisible intelligences whose memories of their own mortal careers are conveyed through thought waves to the reincarnationists who have become sensitized to such impressions. Now, he's using a lot of big words and being a little extra about it, but basically he's saying, if you have a reincarnation memory, a past life memory, which he's accessed by doing these practices, he's saying that they are belonging to your ghost attachment who is stuck to you etherically, and that's their memory. He's not saying these are demons impressing false memories, which is still a lie, because that's what I'm saying is the truth. But he's saying it's possible, and it explains all reincarnation memories. Now, in the future stuff, we'll get in. Actually, I'll get there when I get there. But they say similar things. But they say reincarnation's real, yes, but you can be reliving past life memories from spirits. So then they connect both theories. So now it's like, oh, they can coexist. It's just that Carl Wickland was confused. He thought it was all fake, but no, just a lot of them belong to these ghosts. So now they technically can align with each other. It's just he's confused. But in 30 years of channeling, why are so many spirits coming to him saying, hey, thanks for saving me earlier. By the way, reincarnation is not true, and I know because I'm in the spirit realm right now. That is a straight-up lie from a spirit then, right? So it's they can't coexist. They can't all be telling the truth. And if they're not all telling the truth, they're probably all lying. And what else are they telling us? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of patterns to be gathered. And I guess, and he channels Helena Blavatsky, the Theosophy creator himself, and she even denies reincarnation at the end of his book. And it's like, oh, a great reveal. And if she's saying it, it must be true because she was all about reincarnation and admitted she was wrong in the spirit realm. Like, that's all. They're just taking a character and masking. How do we know it's Helena Blavatsky? Oh, because she said so. You know what I mean? It's just kind of crazy. So, yeah. Entity contact, divination is what they want. That's constant. That's a primary focus. Theology can be fluid. It does not matter. People will gravitate towards what they want and what they feel makes sense for the most part. So keep that in mind when you're hearing all this stuff. That's all I have to say about Carl Wickland's work. I mean, I have more, but that's the most important stuff. Now I want to get into the general chain of events for the whole practice of spirit releasement therapy so people understand the dynamics taking place here, because if they don't understand the dynamics, it's going to be harder to grasp what I'm saying here. So, yeah, like I said, they're coming in, they're channeling a spirit. It can be any type of spirit. It can be a ghost, a soul fragment, an etheric tech attachment connecting to an alien base, which we'll get into more of those stories in the middle of this stuff. It can be demons that don't identify as biblical demons, but as dark force entities, which is what we'll call them. So if he's dealing with a ghost, which is 80%, he says, of these attachments, which is funny because Dan Duval's met 0, but this guy has 80% of them out of thousands. That's crazy. So for ghosts, you want to talk to this ghost, and you want to say, hey, why are you here? Why are you attached to this person? What is your problem? Now, for example, if the patient is an alcoholic, this ghost might have died and been an alcoholic when he died, and now he's floating around the earth realm obsessed with being drunk or whatever it may be, and finds an alcoholic in a bar and attaches to them because they were left open because of their similar brainwave states, because they're similar people, because they're both alcoholics. And now this ghost can live vicariously and feel the feelings of being drunk through this individual and can now experience it like them. Now, they're not fully possessing them and taking over their body, but they're living in their body, feeling what they're feeling. So I find that that's what people understand is what the whole storyline here is. Are you following so far? Am I getting too crazy?
No, I'm with you. And it even kind of goes along with what some people talk about, familiars. I'm trying to think. Even some people kind of float around the generational curse idea. Kind of how
I have
it
complex
could be a
thoughts on it.
spirit, that, alcoholism travels in your family, so therefore that spirit attaches to that bloodline, to the third and fourth generation. So there's lots of
It could be, but I think
connective
it could
tissue
be
you could
any.
make.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're more likely to be something if your parents were, I suppose, because the normalization of it opens that door a little bit more into your, into your thinking, into your belief system, I guess. Like, oh, this is okay, this is normalized to me. Or even if it's something you hated and they're doing awful things you don't like, yeah, it's still like, oh, this is what I was raised with, this is what I know, this is what I understand. So people repeat those behaviors because of that. But I think, yeah, demonic influence involved, but you open yourself up. I think, yeah, things can carry on in a way, but you can break the chains of your generational curse or whatever it may be by your own deliverance, by your own, choice to choose salvation and choose Christ. Personally, I think you can break any of that. But I think SRA victims and people who've had more intense traumas, I think they have more legal framework and metaphysical stuff to work around, sure, but not the stuff Dan Duval's talking about, which we will get into. So, yeah, these ghosts, they're asking them questions like, hey, why are you attached? They'll give them a whole story. Sometimes it'll be a past life person who they knew and they were obsessed with them that life or hated them and they're attaching them to get revenge or because they love them. Stuff like that. It'll be usually physical desires or obsession with the person keeping them here. Half of ghosts are apparently random attachments. They just, whoopsie, fell into your aura, got stuck. The other half are people you knew in a past life or died in this life and are attached to you because they really care about you or really hate you or something like that. And they'll give you a whole story and justify it. So, like I said, these are demons putting on characters and putting on narratives so that you believe in expansive cosmology that isn't aligned with the Bible. So they end up getting rid of these attachments, and we'll get into the process in a minute, what actually happens and how weird it is. But we'll talk about dark force entities for a moment, which is the demons that are, not biblical demons, of course. And you have to metaphysically trap them to get them to not run off around the spirit realm because they're, worried about getting casted out. So they're like, oh, I'm just going to leave. But you metaphysically trap them because you're trying to help them now. You're trying to send them to the light, right? Just like the ghosts.
Solomon's ring, right?
Something like that. Oh, boy. Well, you're going to love this. Okay, so to metaphysically trap them, which, by the way, keep in mind, this is a vision that the patient is seeing in their mind's eye. They're seeing all this take place. They're seeing light beings show up. You have to call light beings and command them, metaphysically activate them by commanding them. And you have to call... The way he's got his methodology is by channeling spirits in the past, and they've taught him what to do. They've taught him and said, you need to do this, you need to call upon this spirit, you need to do this. They've taught him most of this. So keep that in mind. This is also what Dan Duval says about his work. He says Jesus and angels taught him his methodology by channeling them. Just putting that out there, it's the same thing. So we'll get to that later. But he's channeling these spirits. They tell him what to do, and something they've told him to do was to trap these dark force entities. You have to call upon specific groups of light beings, okay? Not angels. I mean, they can use that synonymously, but it's light beings. Angel of light, Corinthians,
Ascended
whatever that verse is.
masters.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So here, I'm not going to go into every little detail, but I'm going to tell you what some of the names of the groups he has to call upon. And he has a specific process. I'm just summarizing it. But some of the spirits he calls on are called, there is the warrior angels of light, okay, the mercy band of rescue angels, gay, the mighty rescue spirits of light, mighty men, a little bit on the nose, sounding like some biblical words, right? Maybe I'm overreaching. But this one's very on the nose, the legions of light. Now that's just crazy that they went that far. They could have avoided using that. It's very on the nose.
Right about your salvation and stuff.
That's perfect. Yes, thank you. So yeah, those are the names that they're offering. Legions of light, Legion in the Bible is accustomed to thousands of demon spirits connected to one person. And I have my whole thoughts on that thing. But yeah, it's just very on the nose. They're really owning the biblical rebrand here. So they're always using biblical terms and rebranding them constantly, which is weird. So they have to trap them by calling upon specific groups of these angels, and they will metaphysically trap them in a capsule of light, and they'll be stuck in it like a little cage. And this is visually seen in the mind's eye in a controlled vision, okay? And they're capable of doing this Watch the first episode if you don't believe me. So when they're captured, they will still be channeling the spirit through the person's mouth, even though they're captured in this thing. And they will be questioning them. And basically, what they do is they question them and they tell him, hey, to the demon, you've been lied to about 3 specific things. And once you hear this, oh boy, you're going to feel real stupid. And the therapist, this is things he's been taught by the light beings. So he then tells them, I'm going to read the quote. This is what he tells the demons, the dark force entities that he's channeling, because they're trapped and they're upset and they're like, oh, you got me, dang it. They're just playing like they're caught. And then he says, the first deception in the dark realm is that there is no light within the individual being. Once they believe that, they are under total subjugation by their dark superiors. They are controlled by threat of annihilation. The second deception is that they can be annihilated. They can be destroyed. They can cease to exist. The third deception is that the light will harm them, burn them, or destroy them. So, of course, they avoid the light. The DFEs are totally controlled by threat and fear through these three deceptions. So, now we're supposed to feel bad for the demons. They're just deceived by their dark superiors. They're told that they have to do this or they won't exist. Okay, well, that's changing the story of how we should view demons. They're just victims. Okay, so it's a real victimization of it. And once you tell them this, they go, huh? No way. What? That's crazy. They're like, I've been lied to. Right? So they're like, dang it, I'm pissed. And then to really solidify it, because sometimes they're like, no way. And by the way, their energy, their channeling, their dialogue is like an angsty teenager. They are not like a calculated, intelligent evil. They're like kind of, I'm not going to say they're retarded, but they're like an angsty teen, the way they act. It's just kind of funny to watch their dialogue. But what happens is he will then tell them, look within yourself, youngin'. You're going to see a spark of light. Like literally, metaphysically, the spirit being, look inside of your own self, however that looks, and you will find a literal spark of light visualized. And the patient will see this in the mind's eye of them doing this. And then the demon will look within, find a spark of light, literally. And that's, to them, this is equaling, oh, this is my connection to source. This means I can't be annihilated. This means I actually am one of you guys, a good guy. I've just been turned around by this dark realm I'm in. That's what they're activating in their understanding. So they see this spark of light, metaphysically, because the person channeling is seeing it. And they then transform instantly into an angel of light, just like the light beings that rescued and trapped them. And then they go, look, you're one of us now. Come with us to the light. Let's go. Like, that's literally, I'm joking, but like that's what they do. And metaphysically, the person is seeing this in their mind's eye vision the whole time. So keep that in mind.
And it's very Kabbalistic too, because I just recently read Robert Seffer's 1666, and he kind of got into some of that stuff. And he was saying that it was their belief that you actually had to go into the dark, and you would basically save the world through sin. That you had to do all these debaucherous things because God was this light shard, this spark of light, and he got busted up throughout the world, but sin even got a hold of it and tainted the shard of light. So it's our job to go and take it from the enemy and cleanse the shards and
gotta fight fire with fire.
Light.
White magic versus black magic. It's not true. Obviously, there's no such thing as white magic, but that's the idea they'll push. No, we can fight the dark forces. We need to do it with good forces. And it's all both sides are the same coin. Two sides of the same coin, like everything else Hegelian dialectic style in our politics. So so that's what happens. They're metaphysically seeing this vision, and then they're healed after they go to the light. They're whatever affliction was caused, whether it be some spiritual warfare, whether it be physical pain, even like long-standing like medical conditions, like for example, in past life regression, not spirits, but past life regression, like they might have had a past life memory where they died, and in that death they had their pancreas clawed out by a freaking bear attack, and they died that way. And then in their next life, in their current life, they've always had pancreatic problems in their pancreas, whatever it may be, and then when they relive that memory, boom, it's gone, and they now are healed. So it's like real deal, like big stuff happening. It's not just like, oh, I'm not sad anymore. Sometimes it's that too, but spiritual warfare will be limited because they're going to lay off pressure to make you validate the entire process and maybe ease their way back in slowly over time whenever it's if you're not an asset, like I said. And that's, not, it's a case-by-case basis, but it happens. So, sorry, not really though. But
Oh, man.
do you have anything for me, brother?
Does this
I
guy
feel
know
like
how to party or what?
That's right, baby. Not anymore though. I don't party these days. Fighting for the Lord. It's hard to do both. So let's see. So yeah, here's where it gets really goofy and silly. Okay, and I know it already is.
If
but
it
it's gonna
hasn't
get
already.
crazy.
That's what
I know.
say.
So in this process, the William J. Baldwin, the therapist here, says in his manual. He says this often. He says this a couple times. He says that occasionally you will get fake guides, fake light angels that metaphysically show up in your vision that are actually demons masking as light beings because they're shape-shifting, which they can do, and admittedly so. They're shape-shifting into light beings in the vision so that they can take the demon that you're trying to rescue, they can take him back to the light. So they'll do the whole closing out operations the same way and play along, and then they'll take you to the dark realm afterwards and be like, haha, gotcha. You know, he says this can happen several times in a row before a real light being can get through. Now, if you're calling upon these light beings by metaphysical, commands, why is a demon able to get through and mask as this being? And he says, this is a quote he says, black and red are the signal color for the DFEs. The red eyes are a dead giveaway. These shapeshifters can attempt to impersonate a loved one, a helping angel, even the Christ figure, admittedly impersonate Christ. But he says, but the eyes, the windows to the soul, give them away. In these false guides, the DFE can hold a normal color for no less than a minute, then the red eyes began to show. Now, what he's saying is, in the mind's eye vision the patient's seeing, a demon will be shapeshifted into a light being, and if you look into their eyes metaphysically for a minute or so, they can't hold their form longer than that. Yes, maybe the whole vision is controlled completely, but the beings in it can only hold their form for a minute, which is what is happening here is they are putting on a false flag show, theatrics. This entire process is so deceptive. Everything about this is fake that they need to throw you a bone occasionally so that because you might be questioning throughout the process, this is too good to be true, this is too easy. He even says this, like, how is this so, like, easy for me to do? He'll say things like that. And he's like, my skepticism remains alive and well, but he is validating the whole thing with the visions and with the healing. So it just is like, oh, well, it's happening, so it must be true. Now, so they are putting on a show and shape-shifting in front of them to be like, oh, you caught us. We're demons, actually. Oh, no. And then they get out of there, and then, boom, another fake light being will come through and do the same process. He said sometimes it'll be 5 or 6 times in a row till a real one gets through.
No, this is Dan Duval. This is not this other guy. Okay.
No, this is the other guy. We're going to get to Dan Duval in a bit, but I have to cover this is groundwork because what I'm describing here, this whole process, this whole dynamics, the vision, everything happening, this is exactly what Dan Duval does in his practice to heal.
Gotcha.
Except he says he channels through the telepathic connection, not through the voice. That's the only difference. And then the characters they meet are different characters. Sometimes the same because they overlap in some ways, but they don't have ghosts because ghosts don't exist in Christian cosmology. But aliens can technically because the Bible isn't super strong, flatly
So
playing
you're laying
against
out this other guy's practices and all the different things.
So that
way
people
when
see
we
it's
get
the
to
same thing.
You see the correlations. Okay, gotcha.
I have to go in this order. I know it's a Dan Duval thing, but it has to be in this order because it will all make sense, bigger picture, whenever I do it this way.
Well, I'm a big dummy, but I'm glad I asked because there might have been somebody else that was thinking the same thing too. I'm like, this Duval guy, how does people not see he's,
Yeah, no, it's I have to be thorough here because I mean maybe I'm being overly so, but I find the little details are where the money is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That fake guide thing, he just admitted that they can impersonate Jesus Christ, which I already know they do and have done in many ways, which means if they can impersonate Christ to these New Agers, why would they not do it with a Christian? You know what I'm saying? Because they say they're seeing Jesus, they say they're seeing angels in these visions, just in Dan Duval's work. But if they can impersonate Christ to the New Agers, why not to you? It's the same idea. So, so that fake guide thing is absolutely crazy. It's a fake testing the spirit to make you think, oh, I got it figured out. I see the deception, but really they're just throwing you a bone so you feel smart. Now, continuing on, we got to talk about soul fragments and etheric attachments, which these are both present in Dan Duval's work. This pretty much in the same way, I believe. So I'm going to read what they are just so people understand. This is a quote from Baldwin's work, though. He says, speaking on soul fragments, he says, these can be separated from a person and follow like a balloon on a string, metaphysically, of course. A mind fragment of a living person can be of another living person as an attached entity. A fragment can remain in a location of the trauma or an especially joyous event even. The fragment can sometimes be found in a distant location. If a fragment occurred in a prior lifetime, the fragment might still be back there/then. Nearly all of these fragments can be located and recovered in a therapy session. A serious traffic accident, even a narrowly missed collision, can cause a fragment to separate and move towards the light, assuming it had died because it has its own autonomy, its own mind. The shock, the emotional impact of the trauma on the psyche can lead to a fragmentation of the consciousness, the soul essence. Fragmentation presents a wide open door for any passing entity. If there are literally pieces missing from the soul essence of the individual, an entity can easily attach and enter. Now, I'm not saying our souls absolutely can't have some level of, alter creation via trauma-based mind control, that people create altars. But then they channel those altars, and I think those channeled entities are all demons, either utilizing that opening or masking over that fragment. I don't know if I believe in soul fragments. I currently don't. I'm open to it. People say the Bible says the soul can be shattered, or it can be, or you need to restore the soul. That's what Dan Duval says to promote this idea. Oh, the Bible says you need to restore your soul. Well, it doesn't tell you to, but it says your soul needs restoration. Now, does that mean literal metaphysical shattering of your actual soul, or does that mean, is that a poetic way of saying you need to be healed from an internal spiritual place in a way that's poetic more so than literal? We cannot assume that is literal.
The soul, feeding the spirit. I mean, are we talking about physically throwing?
Am I supposed to give it? Yeah. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you. It's like, can we really assume for sure that is a literal shattering of your soul? And if your soul is shattered, can you not, be saved? Like, aren't you restored ultimately in Christ anyway? Like, why? What does it truly matter? Like, all these people are functioning with their fragments everywhere. What does it truly do? I think it's a cover for demons, of course, when they channel soul fragments of your altars. I don't think I believe those are anything but demons, but, I'm open to the whole younger altar of you cut off and being integrated. I don't believe the integration thing, because they say you need to integrate these fragments, and you have to ask them to integrate with you. Now, if that's a demon masking as a fragment, you're asking a demon to consensually integrate with you, merge with you deeper. To be fully possessed takes quite a bit more consent and more direct knowledge of it, somewhat. But for these merging and these demonization, you're asking for it, is what I believe is happening. Now, one example
that's one thing that's always bothered me is like all the extra. I tell people all the time, I love looking at Nephilim giants and UFOs, all this, Bigfoot, all this weird, crazy stuff. But it's not detrimental to my faith or my soul.
No.
The gospel of Christ is. That's what's important. So I think when we see people, in my opinion now, when they talk about, doing this type of stuff or certain prayers to the counsel of God, and you got to say it this way, you got to do
it's so specific.
It seems so very ritualistic and occultic.
Why would Jesus want us to do all that?
Exactly. So, I mean, our God went to the cross and died, and his blood was shed for all of us. You're saying that that's not enough? To me,
exactly.
When I see
that's
that stuff, I'm like, why would salvation and all these other things be so difficult to obtain if he loves you so much? And was the cross not enough?
And why are these legal metaphysical commands so specific, and you have to do it such a precise
like a magical
way?
Occult ritual.
Yeah, no, it's white magic. It's healing, so it's good. But it's all strategic. It's the same thing as Reiki, and I might touch on this later. But Reiki is the same thing as SRT material. It's you have to invoke a spirit, channel a spirit. To give you the power, the universal consciousness spirit, whatever it may be. You say the name 3 times all magically, and then you can heal people with your hands. But really, you're just doing a New Age practice, and then the spirit is laying off pressure, just like in this, strategically at the right time, so that you believe that you have psychic abilities. And I think you can have psychic abilities, but they're powering it. And really, it's just them doing all the work, is my point. So one example, by the way, because it says a mind fragment of a living person can be with another living person as an attached entity. An example in one of these books is, in Baldwin's book, is the mother, and it's a mother and a son. The son comes in for a spirit releasement therapy, and he channels his mother's soul fragment, who is currently alive, and he's channeling his mother through him, who is saying that she is basically saying she got attached, her spirit fragment, because she was such a helicopter mom, so obsessed with her son, that this is why he thinks about her all the time and is so nervous about her, and she's always on his mind because the soul fragment of her is connected to him, and it's causing this. And that's a living person being channeled by a living person. Or is that a demon just telling you a story? Like, what is more likely here? It's just so ridiculous. They're trying to do this infinite consciousness connection thing. We're all connected, but it's like, how do you channel a living person and they not be aware of it? It's their altar. It's their fragment. It's split off from them. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Now, etheric devices, I'll get into what those are. It says etheric devices of various forms. These can serve various purposes, such as control, energy drainage, monitoring, or blocking spiritual growth. They are typically non-physical, but can manifest as physical or psychological symptoms, such as small energetic devices, often described as crystalline, metallic, or an organic in appearance, implanted in the aura, chakras, or physical body, used for various reasons, such as the controlling of appetites for food, drugs, sexual activity, turning the dial up on emotions of choice, such as anger or anxiety, etc. So these are connected from some, etheric cord to this lab of aliens, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this is how they channel aliens, but it channels through the voice just like a regular attached spirit, even though it's just an alien in a lab speaking through it like a speaker. You know what I mean? It kind of doesn't make sense. And what they're doing is they're distancing from entity attachment in general here. So now it's not just entities you have to worry about, even though they all have the same side effects. And you can't tell them apart by side effects. They all do the same thing, but it's showing, now it's technology from aliens too. And there's so many aliens out there. So who knows what group it is. And we'll get into the alien stuff more in a little bit, but it's pretty goofy. Now, another thing I'll add is connecting to the first episode, the astral lore. There is no admittance of spirit attachments in all of astral lore, even though they share the same cosmology generally. There is no spirit merging with another to live through them at all. There's similar concepts, like in Robert Monroe's work, he'll go and rescue ghosts who are staying on the earth plane, just like these entities who are obsessed with people or obsessed with their addictions. And like, for example, one guy, this is a funny story, he finds this one ghost trying to get in between two actual humans having sex, and he doesn't know he's dead, doesn't know that they can't see him, even though he's like, why can't they see me? I'm trying to bang him. He's like, if only Tommy could get out the way, I could get some. And he's trying to bang this girl in this three-way. And it's funny because he's falling through the bed onto the floor, but he doesn't fall through the floor. And Robert Monroe even says it's kind of weird how he didn't keep falling through the floor, because they were on an apartment, so it didn't make any sense to him. It's theatrics, that's why. But anyway, it was funny. So he sees this ghost boner, literally. I call it a ghoul tool or a booner. And he, yeah, and he sees this ghost with his ding dong out trying to bang these people. And he's telling him he's dead, and he's like, no way, what? And, he believes him eventually, and he rescues him. Now, here's the thing. This ghost was not merging with them, living through their eyes, feeling what they feel like everybody in the SRT work. He was outside of them, failing to get in between them, failing to merge with them. That is what they talk about in the astral lore. They don't have anybody merging with anybody else, any possession type stuff admitted in the astral lore, and I don't know how they can how those concepts, they have to overlap, but they're not overlapping. So I just think that's an interesting little discrepancy to point out, because they don't match and they share the same cosmology otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yep. Sorry, you always ask me a question when I go to the single screen and it mutes me.
No, you're good. I've been ranting for a while, and I want to make sure I'm not being rude here, brother. You know how I get.
No, you're
a nice
good.
Guy like that.
The platform is yours.
All right, we're gonna get to Dan Duval in a bit. I have a couple more things here, and then we'll go crazy on him. So I guess I can skip that one. So this is a big one. This is what I mentioned earlier. And I'm just going to read the quote so I'm not making stuff up. In Baldwin's manual, he says that when a client discovers a disturbing memory, it can be a past life personality, though just as often it is the traumatic death of an attached entity, saying this is just like Carl Wicklund stuff. Your past life memories might be due to these ghost attachments. Not demons making them up, but actual memories of real people who lived in the past. Now, this is telling you, he says, if you want to do past life regression first, we got to do spirit releasement therapy so you can get rid of them first. And then once the coast is clear and there's no spirits around, they're all gone, then we're good to go with the past life regression. Otherwise, you're going to relive their memory and it's going to feel like your own, and you're not going to know the difference because it's going to be so powerful and affect you. Now, if we can't trust half of past life memories now without spirit releasement therapy first, what does that tell you? Now, it's not compatible with Carl Wickland stuff because they said it's all fake. It's all from them. And now this people are saying, no, they're real, but they can be fake and not yours. But what I'm saying is it's all demonic fake visions, which they can download into you because you've consented to divination. Don't do it. Don't do it, guys. So I think that's a crazy detail that needs to be.
And me, I'm just a good old boy, you know. But it's like
I know you
it
are.
sounds that complicated.
It's so exactly. People need to know how
just
complex
leave me to
it
what
is.
my 66 book canon says. I could just get on my knees and pray and ask for things in the name of Jesus. That's like a stereo manual. I don't need a book that thick with word print that small to figure out what I need to do to live a happier, healthy life. It says my God is
doing
not
it right, bro.
author of confusion.
Yeah, and this stuff is ultimately so convoluted on purpose. It is so crazy. Now, but it expands the cosmology because they can't. It means, if this is all real, if these entities are real, it must mean we don't live in the same world the Bible says we live in, which is the whole point. And aligning with the astral lore, which people can experience themselves because it's more convincing if you experience it yourself, even if it's fake. So another thing, and then we'll get to the alien stuff. Then Duval. So group entity release is another thing he talks about, which is absolutely bananas. And basically, what happens is back when I said how demons are taken to the light after they look in the spark and find their spark, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm one of you now. I transform to a light being." I skipped this earlier, but we're going back to it. After they turn into a light being, before they're taken to the light, they want to be helpful. You ask them for help because they want to be a homie and do some, karmic balancing for themselves, I suppose. So what they do is, and the light beings, orchestrated this whole idea anyway, but the therapist will then ask the transformed demon, who's now a light being, he will ask them, hey, call upon all your colleagues, your peers, your other demons in the dark realm, and bring them over. Bring them over here. We're going to have a conversation with them. And they will call upon as many as they can, which the higher level of a demon you are, the higher on the hierarchy you are, the more show up, they say, because they don't really respect you if you're below them. So if you get a big one, you'll get a lot. Now, this is all seen in the mind's eye vision, keep in mind, of the patient. And they will describe, I'm just going to read the quote. He says, according to clients in thousands of sessions over the years, it works. As these DFEs rush in, clients describe the scene like a flood of darkness, like a river of lava or thick black oil flowing toward the light. Each DFE is encapsulated in light. Each discovers its spark. Each transforms into light. The rescue spirits of light transport them to their own place in the light. This is an awesome visual image to the client in an altered state of consciousness. So they're seeing so many freaking demons show up. It looks like a flood of lava. It's like it's got to be millions or hundreds of thousands at least. And what they're doing is they have the light angels trap all of them. They tell them all to find their spark, baby, and then they transform instantly into a bright shining light, and they go to the light, and they're all rescued. So you're exercising millions of people at one time through one source.
I'm sorry, I have to hit this soundbite for that.
I have exorcised the demons.
This is perfect.
Clear.
Bro, you're wild. That's so good. Okay, well, yeah, but I hope you understand this is how absolutely bananas it is. And if the vision control concept in episode 1 is true, which, by the way, is proven to be possible, let alone if not accounting for all of this, then this is nothing for them. This is very easy. It's all strategy. It's building a cosmology that's fake with fake visions. And Duval has the exact same story, just with different lore that doesn't align. So am I making sense here, bro?
Yep, you're building the building blocks. I'm eager to see the connections because I've even had some people in the chat that don't know anything about Duval, but they said they've been going to his website and they're like, well, "How does this connect? I'm not seeing it." So
well, it's the same. It's the same It's the same methodology, is what ultimately. But we'll get into that. I have to read a few excerpts that are absolutely bananas of CE6, Close Encounters of the Possession Kind, which is Baldwin, the other guy, the guy who wrote that manual, also wrote this book like 6 or 8 years later in 1998, I believe. And it is even goofier than the first. Now, this is all alien lore. This is all etheric tech attachments connecting to aliens, and it's focused on that and answers that he gleaned from it. So I'll just summarize this one, I guess. So he talks about how, like I said, he's connecting to them, channeling them through these aliens are in a lab on a spaceship or an underground bunker, and these are conversations he's having with them through the etheric technological attachments that are causing these people harm. And the aliens are doing this, putting these devices on people, they say for research, just to get data and to mess with people's emotions and see what happens. It's like, we're gonna make Jeff all angry. Yeah, make him hit his wife. Yeah, do that. What's gonna happen next? Are they gonna get divorced? Like, what is this data for? They don't really say. But on top of that, so I already explained that. He says the client will visualize a black cord, kind of like the silver cord of the astral body. He says they'll visualize a black cord connecting to the ET laboratory, and they'll travel to the ET laboratory and see it in the spirit by metaphysically traveling there instantly. And the ET will always be surprised that you're there, and they'll answer and speak to you via channeling. So they even say this can be surprising and distressing to the client, but with assurance that the control is only temporary and that people have overcome this intrusion, most clients continue with the dialogue. So they pre-consent to channeling, and that's giving all the consent they need. So, I'll read. Okay, this is fun. I'm gonna read Dr. Baldwin's voice, and then I'm gonna read the ET he's channeling in different voices. I'm gonna sound like a retard for a minute, so just keep that in mind. I'm sorry. It might be fun. But in this conversation he's about to have, Baldwin is the therapist, and he is communicating with these ETs through Janet. Janet's the girl who's channeling, and she's the patient. And she's seeing all this happen, and they're basically, it's just going to be stupid. Okay, I'm just going to do it. Okay, so this is Baldwin. He says, how many such members of the human race have you treated this way? About 3,000. This is a violation of an intelligent species. You have no right to interfere this way. We did not know we were interfering. Drawing from the realm of science fiction, I tried to imagine the organization of such a group of beings. I took a chance and plunged ahead. Cross-connect us with your headquarters. We want to speak with your high command. A few moments passed, and Janet straightened in the recliner. Her voice took on a different tone. The manner was almost imperious. And this is high command now speaking through Janet. They said, where's your manager? And here he goes to show up, channeling through the same voice. Yes, what is it you want? Your scientists have placed probes in 3,000 human beings without consent. Yes, they are gathering data. You are gathering data from unwilling subjects. Aren't you aware of the concept of non-interference? There is not to be interference with another sentient species. Yes, we are aware. We did not mean to interfere, only to gather data. We are a sentient species. We protest this intrusion. What would you like us to do? We request that you withdraw the probes from every human being on this planet. This was a request, not a demand. I had nothing to enforce such a demand. There was some hesitation, as if there was a discussion being carried on in the background. My skeptical mind asks, if any of this were true, why do they talk to me, and why would they be willing to do what I ask? These questions are always with me in altered state sessions. My skepticism remains alive and well. Okay, bro, I believe you. Yeah, totally. This is a straight transcript from one of his first sessions with aliens. That is exactly what went down. They're actually pretty nice guys. They just do whatever you ask, and they give up their entire huge interplanetary, interdimensional project just because you politely asked for them to leave. Is that not crazy to you?
Yeah, and he totally didn't even have to pull the Adam Sandler girlfriend bit, you know?
Good, then get the hell out of my life. Who needs you? Beat it. Leave me alone.
And then he'd be like,
I'm sorry, babe. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, man. Like that's it. How it should have went down if this was a real conversation, but it's just too good to be true. And I hope my voice has made it a little fun. But
oh yeah,
I
was laughing.
And, well, in the audiobook, I use even crazier voices because they're not my own.
I love the authoritativeness. You know, we didn't know we was interfering. We will remove our probes.
You know, you gotta put some spice into it so people are entertained. You know, otherwise they'll get bored. So yeah, we got a couple more of these alien quotes because they're they're just revealing of to what deception is taking place here. So another one is, I call this, "No, I'm literally your space brother," and the quote says, I suspected an attached entity. Her tears finally subsided, and an entity was able to speak through Carla's voice. It claimed to be her brother in another existence, in another planet, and another solar system, and another dimension. He followed her to the system when she chose to come to the planet Earth to incarnate. He did not want to endure the whole process of becoming a human in his own body as she had done. He had bypassed that step. Now he wanted her to withdraw so he could live through her body, or at least move aside so he could take over. With very little explanation, he realized the harm he was doing to his sister, whom he loved, yet wanted to dominate in this chauvinistic manner. That's all it is. As he recounted their life on their home planet in a distant space and time, reliving a past life memory with her, Carla also recalled the love they had shared there and began to weep again, this time for the joy of the memory and the sadness over the loss. This was, in effect, a dual past life regression, both beings remembering the same prior existence on another planet. So he's just a good old brother of hers, and he just, wants to live through her body and hurt him, put her consciousness and put it down so he can take over her body. That's not weird and creepy. But
my turn.
And not, and not what a demon would do, absolutely not. But with very little explanation, they go, this is kind of weird, dude. You shouldn't be doing this. And he goes, you know what? You're right. And then he impresses a vision upon her of their past life memory on another alien planet together where they loved each other. And she gets an intuitive download of, I love this guy as my brother. I love him. And she now feels this in her knowing while experiencing a visualization of it. And now she's crying and she's like, I love you. I'm sorry this had to happen, but you have to leave now, but it's okay. I forgive you. Like this is a demon, obviously. And you just apologize to them and told them that you're all cool with it. So you're not protecting yourself from any further intrusion, by the way, when you do that. So that's just a little fun story. And another one I'm going to summarize because it's long. It basically is he's doing this regression. Instead of a spirit releasement therapy specifically, he's doing a abduction memory recovery, which, we'll not get into it now, but I think a lot of them are real and a lot of them are fake and can be controlled, and that's for disinformation purposes, but they align enough with the real ones so they don't seem fake. So this one's fake for sure, and he's having this girl relive her abduction memory, which she might be an abductee too, but this memory is not real. And she's in a craft, and there's a alien, and she's seeing this all happen. She's relaying what she's seeing to him in this non-autonomous memory that she's reliving. And then all of a sudden he says, hey, wait a minute, I have an idea. Try talking to him. Talk to him in the memory. Can you talk to him? And she goes, okay, I'll try it. And then she does, and she has autonomy in this memory all of a sudden. It activates autonomy, and now she's speaking to this alien, and now he's channeling the alien from the past in a memory. Now, in the whole metaphysical time travel, there's no time theory, in like the astral stuff, you could say, oh, well, this always was going to happen in the future, so it happened in the past, and this always happened. And that's how they kind of excuse it. Oh, you were going to do this, so it happened. I don't really love that logic. It doesn't make sense to me. Time travel's fake and gay, if you ask me, but it's what they say. So she talks to this alien in the past, and he agrees to deactivate her implant and says, yeah, but you got to come back on the ship if you want me to remove it. Okay. Like, that's a good idea. And she said she was going to think about it. She's like, I'll get back to you on that. So she almost gave consent to get more abductions, by the way, which she might have still already done, but it's just crazy. And Baldwin doesn't see that as sketchy at all. He's like, well, she'll figure that out on her own time, but we'll drop that whole conversation. He doesn't see this as, this could be a deception here. He doesn't even mention the possibility of that, by the way. So that's crazy. And we're going to read two more, and it's going to be a little long, but it's very, very insightful and insane and nightmare fuel. So, in a moment. So this one I call Southern Hospitality is Universal. And it says, we always seek to connect to the highest ranking leader. The commander-in-chief, the space commander, the crew leader, or the science officer can be summoned, and he will respond. This always surprises me. Why do they bother to answer my questions? Lines of communication seem to exist between all members of this alien bureaucracy. As they speak, the client can repeat the words in our language. They may reveal that they are under orders of a part of a fleet of several such craft on similar missions around Earth. They can cross-connect us with the deep space station base headquarters on their homeworld, or their ruling body, whether it is a military cabal or civilian council. The client can repeat the words of the alien leaders as they respond. In an altered state, this kind of channeling is easily accomplished. In a number of these cases, the base commander has acknowledged the intrusion and agreed to remove the technicians, the equipment, the probes, communication devices, implants, etc. They seem eager to do this and offer an apology for the interference, often a request for forgiveness, and a hearty thank you for the new awareness regarding their fruitless research efforts. Bunch of nice dudes, these aliens. I had no idea they were so reasonable.
I mean, yeah, man.
And that is the whole problem with aliens.
Because you just can't trust them.
Your soundboard is crazy, man. You have all these locked and loaded. Yeah, so that's part one, and then the next part is even more insane. And just bear with me here. So it says the technician simply turns up the volume on some aspect of human emotion or behavior and records what happens with the human subject. This behavior or emotional outburst causes anguish in the human. This is the desired result. The anguish is the underlying goal of the project. The energy emanation of the anguish of the human suffering is harvested by the DFEs. It is used as energy. Yeah, yes, we're going to get there. It is used as energy, sustenance, food. It seems to be the experiment is a cover for the activity of the DFEs, because he's telling you in a moment the DFEs are attached to these aliens, and they're attached to the homeworlds of the aliens, and they're actually guiding the aliens. So it's saying aliens are demonic, but not biblical demons, but it's admitting to you, coming close to the truth, that aliens are demonic, but they're more like the archons wanting your loose. They just want your energy. They just want your resources. It's not about guiding your soul away from Christ and from salvation and dooming your soul. No, it's about energy, resources. That's all it is. So it's not that nefarious. That is the Gnostic story. That is what the astral shit teaches. It is the same idea, but they're now admitting that DFEs, lower astral entities, demons, whatever you want to call them, they're admitting that they are the source for this entire operation, which is closer to the truth than anybody else, yet still a deception. Isn't that crazy that they are willing to give you that kind of limited hangout?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what they do. They'll give you a powerful truth, but wrapped in 4 pretty lies. You know, you got to dig through the lies to find the truth.
Exactly. And I'm going to keep reading this, but keep in mind, after these sessions, these people are healed of their ailments caused by the alien etheric tech attachments. This is the same thing Duval does with visions and with communication with entities, and they put on a different story or similar stories often, depending on where the lore goes. So it is the same. We're going to get to the details, but it's the same thing. So he also says they will usually divulge information that a high dark being who controls their people. A client will usually describe a sinister and menacing dark figure on the craft visualized, clearly exerting powerful control, always situated near the ship's captain. The ET technician is usually unaware of the dark influence. The commander of the spacecraft is conscious of the dark presence in only about half of such cases. The ruling council members on the homeworld are aware of the dark lords in charge at various levels. They acknowledge that they or their predecessors in the council struck an alliance with the dark forces long ago, sound familiar, for the purpose of gaining personal and political power. However, that's believable. However, once that dark contract was established, the DFEs took power of the council. The DFEs assumed ownership of the alien civilization, and there was nothing that could be done about it. The council members usually range from 3 to 11 in number. The ones that was reported a Senate of 1,800 members are grateful for the assistance in separating themselves and their citizens from the DFEs. With the assistance of many light beings, we facilitate the total removal of the DFEs from the lowliest DFE to the attached ET technician through the Dark Lords on the craft and the high-level dark beings wielding power over the council members and overseers or enforcers who lurked behind the scenes. After the release of DFEs from their civilization, the council gladly orders the removal of implants, monitors, communication devices, various and assorted headbands and skull caps, and the ET technicians. They order the return of all the craft orbiting this homeworld and any other, and the space stations involved in this hideous project. A tremendous piece of work was completed in a very short time. The effect on consciousness cannot be measured. Now, he just told you he's exercised entire planets in one session dozens of times without fail. Entire planets. Now, how are we still getting abductions and all these people with these attachments if you haven't gotten rid of them all by now? How many alien species are doing this exact same project? You've done it dozens to dozens of planets. How many are doing this? Because it's not ended. So is that not, how do you think, you give me some thoughts, bro.
And if it is true, why not start on your own home planet first?
Yeah, like, bro, what? That is the biggest hole in this whole thing. If you can do whole planets at once, why have you not gotten your own? It doesn't make any sense. And it's the same story on every one of these planets.
Because there's witnesses on our planet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, right?
Yeah, people can give testimony on it, man. But hey, he's telling everybody just to
back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's the end of the other stuff. We're now on Duval finally. Thank you for your patience, guys. But I swear, like, it's the same practice, just different concepts coming out or similar names. In ways. Yeah, but often similar in various ways. But they don't align. So I had to get my burp out. Okay, so we got to start with, I want to say, because I forgot to mention earlier that, I'm not just coming after Duval for any other reason other than he is getting popular. Not everybody knows him, but he has over 10,000 hours, he claims, as of a few months ago, in deliverance practice himself, let alone the people he's trained. He has, I think, 19 trainers, and I don't mean anything when I say this, but just a coincidence, 16 out of 19 of his trainers are women, putting it out there. Doesn't matter. So, I love you, ladies. Anyway, so he's training hundreds more now. Like, the trainers are training collectively hundreds, and soon to be over 1,000, he says. Now, the trickle-down effect from all these people getting into work with this is not going to be good. It's going to be very bad. And the word of mouth with all these successful healings are going to be traveling so fast. It's going to be it's going to aid the Great Deception greatly. So I feel the need to get onto this man. Respectfully, Dan, I love you. I pray for you. I hope you come to our side and join the team. But if you don't, that's not good. So I really need people to understand this is the same thing. So, okay, I got to just get into it. Okay, so one thing he talks about is the cosmic soul trafficking cartel. Now, he's talking about soul fragments, not entire souls. And here is a quote of him talking about it. He says, we kept getting stories about soul parts that were pulled from out of body, put on a cosmic trade route, and trafficked to these realms. And we're having to go to these locations in the spirit world, in the vision, in the mind's eye vision, with Jesus, who he sees in the vision, and break soul parts, spirit fragments out of dungeons, prisons, laboratories, and glass containers, and all kinds of stuff. And people are getting set free and delivered, and now they can sleep, and now their finances are working. That's a verbatim quote from his Deep End appearance. He has 5 appearances. That is from the Dark Side of Deliverance episode at 55 minutes, 30 seconds, if you don't believe me. So I'm not going to offer timestamps for all of them, but they're all verbatim quotes. So he's saying in the spirit world, as in the mind's eye vision of the patient, the inner world, he calls it. So it's the same concept as what these people are going through, and it's ending in a healing. Okay?
It's almost like the Gnostic teaching, the secret. What do they call that? Manifestation. Like you think about it first, and then you manifest it.
Yeah. You're really just telepathically telling demons what you want, and then they are going to try to fulfill it on your behalf so that you believe that you did it yourself.
Yeah. But what is that called?
Yeah.
It's from that book and movie, The Secret. There's a name for it.
Well, I mean, you're saying manifestation, but is there like another layer you're talking about?
Yeah, it'll come to me.
All right, when it hits, let me know. But yeah, he says a few more things on it. He says some of them are like talking about the places he goes to find these soul fragments. He says some of them are like concentration camps. We have found soul fragments that have been trafficked to mining operations off planet. He also says rings of Saturn often, and Orion and Pleiades. That's where they're trafficked to these alien colonies. The mining operations off planet is directly a correlation to secret space program lore, which if you want my explanation on that whole deception, that's part 3 material. But secret space program lore, in my opinion, is just the same thing, fabricated memories implanted into people for disinformation purposes. And it aligns with that very Gnostic type of lore. Secret space program is very Gnostic in its cosmology. So it's bridging the two worlds here effortlessly. He also says, this is on his latest Deep End appearance. He says, we found fragments of people's spirit on board craft operated by the Galactic Federation. Okay, so the Galactic Federation are real again. Okay, I thought that was disproved a while ago, but now the Christians believe in it. Okay, well, that's very interesting. And everybody laughed when he said that. It was in a big audience. It's a clip from an audience show. And he laughs too, and then he just nervously skirts by the subject and doesn't talk about it again. But he says Galactic Federation a couple times that I've caught him. And he believes it's real. So now we are going to... I'm about to need that timestamp from the video in a minute, but I'll let you know when. But I'll remind you.
I got it at the ready.
Yeah, and then we can use the bathroom if we want, because I might need to. But he is also talking about councils, and the video I played from last episode was a summary, kind of really funny, goofy video of him talking about various councils. The... Council of Ascended Masters he talks about, Council of Reptilians, Council of Octopus Council from the Water Kingdom, of course, Council from
all
alternate
kind of crazy stuff.
Council from alternate Earth. He believes in alternate Earths and timelines. That's interesting. I didn't know that was biblical. And then he ends with the Council of Scotland. I thought that was funny, but I don't put that in the video. It's just very out of nowhere. Anyway, he has like...
Was it Raven that said he forgot marrow or something.
The
like
bone
that.
marrow. No, we're getting there. Don't skip ahead. Or that's in the video. That's in the prayer we're getting to.
Okay.
But yeah, that one's funny. So yeah, so he talks about he has like 60 or 80 councils he names before he does his full prayer, and we're not going to go through that in the prayer I'm going to play in a minute, but we'll play other goofy parts from the same exact video. And the video that's from is How to Challenge Evil Councils with Dan Duval. Look that up if you want to watch the second half of that video. You will hear the craziest stuff you've ever heard in your life. But before I get that, he says, this is a quote of his, he says, there are usually councils of 3 or 5 or 9, and then the 60 other crazy ones we didn't name, behind these things, giving them governmental authority. So instead of renouncing individual things, we started renouncing whole councils, asking what councils are overseeing this activity. Some evil councils worked for DARPA or 3-letter agencies or satanic groups. Sometimes it was a spiral council of ascended masters. I didn't know you could be an ascended master in a Christian cosmology. That's weird. He says once we started to address the councils, the governing bodies, we started to see major breakthroughs in people. So it's like a legality thing. He's addressing councils who are overseeing the demonic harassment because they got authority through the council, not because you're sinning and metaphysically opening the door, but because councils approved it, which is explaining a lot of it, which is kind of dumb. So I want you to play that video in a sec. This is going to be a few minutes of his prayers, and I'm using my audiobook, which is free on YouTube and Spotify. Check it out. Spirit Realm Shenanigans, exclamation mark, the audiobook, exclamation mark. That's where you find it. Separated by chapter. And this is at 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 10 seconds of part of chapter 3. And whenever you're ready, play it, and you can end it around 2 hours, 11 minutes, 57 seconds.
The renunciation.
Okay, so I'm at 2 minutes.
Not 2 hours, 9 minutes. Yeah. 10 seconds, or it can be close to that, you know.
Language used.
This is the narrator voice of the main book.
Warning. You are about to witness maximum buffoonery in its most potent form.
I'll be right
Here
back.
are some key excerpts.
Father in heaven, I come boldly before your throne of grace to find mercy and grace to help in time of need. I enter into your gates with thanksgiving, and I enter into your courts with praise. I hide myself in Christ Jesus. And from this secret place, I perform this renunciation and divorce. I command that every
Negative decisions.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hang on a second. I messed that up. I was trying to turn the volume up and click somewhere else. I apologize.
Coinciding. Storyline is playing out. The etheric alien tech connected via black cord.
There you go. It's a little louder.
Akin to the astral body's silver cord found on the astral back. Apparently, these etheric energy connections foster the ability for any entity in the lab to channel through it whenever prompted, as well as instantly, I suppose, metaphysically, transferring the call, so to speak, to whoever you want. Wow. Just say, "Excuse me, where is your manager?" and you'll instantly be transferred to the craft commander, the High Council of the Homeworld, space presidents, etc. They all have each other's number, I guess, and somehow are always available when requested. How accommodating. They, of course, answer just about any question he has, ranging slightly in helpfulness or attitude, but almost always being compliant and revealing. It makes sense that maintaining somewhat of a range of personalities would feel more legitimate than otherwise, but the variations seem minimal.
Wait, where are we at?
Considering the end result is always the same. Baldwin provides many transcripts.
Oh, we're at the
various-
wrong part. I'm so sorry. Wait, what hour are we at?
No, I messed up because I went to, because I don't know, for some reason when I go to get my little pointer over my window, instead of bringing up the bar, I have to click it. And when I click it, of course, it moves it on the timeline. It's weird.
Because we started out the right place.
Yeah, because it was so low, nobody could hear it. So I tried to turn up the volume.
Okay. Yeah, 2 hours, 9 minutes, 10 seconds. Sorry.
No, that was my mess up.
That's true.
Hey, easy. All right,
I'll
2
forgive you.
hours, 9 minutes.
Okay,
shows the renunciation and confrontation language used. Warning. You are about to witness maximum buffoonery in its most potent form. Here are some key excerpts.
Father in heaven, I come boldly before your throne of grace to find mercy and grace to help in time of need. I enter into your gates with thanksgiving, and I enter into your courts with praise. I hide myself in Christ Jesus, and from this secret place, I perform this renunciation and divorce. I command that every gate, frequency, barrier, equation, cloaking device, force field, sacred geometry, DNA matrix, apex of time, formula, defensive protocol, and any other form of unholy technology that would otherwise hinder progress, conceal ungodly agents, agendas, and slash or activities in relation to this renunciation and divorce of
blank
would be deactivated, disengaged, and moved out of the way, including all connected bombs, tripwires, and booby traps.
Apex of time really had me shitting for real. Duval then continues with renouncing connections.
I renounce my tethering to, overlaying and interfacing with, and all existence as the group and all portals that are the group and all associated gates, paths, channels, forces, genetic and cellular anchoring data packets, ungodly DNA strands, bone marrow, assignments, blood, plasma, markers, meridian lines, chakras, energy signatures, neural lace, all related powers of darkness, quantum technologies, oversouls, and any other type of malevolent being.
Shoot. I was worried he was gonna forget the bone marrow. That one's major. Followed with a calling for judgment.
I now call for every algorithm or formula created from the listener's DNA and genetic material that is projected throughout the group to be shut down in every age, realm, dimension, frequency, vibration, and timeline, past, present, and future, to infinity. I command the immediate apprehension of all hybrids and every cosmic, artificial intelligence and technology behind those projections, and call for viruses encoded with heavenly algorithms to be uploaded into them and their computers in order to destroy them in judgment. I curse their computers with a curse of non-existence.
Got him. Take that. And that. Finally executing.
That's you can end it there.
judgment.
It's just more.
Well,
of
he
that.
did forget one.
And I
That damn Sasquatch.
That's why these people aren't all really fixed, man. He's not getting the right characters. Yeah, but that's what he prays like in these healing sessions. He renounces things and he lists long lists of things. And I just gave you a little smidgen of it. You know, there's a lot more. And I didn't know the Bible was asking us to do these things and talk about the apex of time and to infinity and freaking bone marrow. I didn't know that we had to do that. If that's so important, why didn't we get any instruction from Jesus? I thought we just pray to Jesus. You know, it's just ridiculous stuff. People don't know that's what he actually does, but the reason he came to these conclusions to do all this was because he channeled Jesus and angels, which is what we're talking about right now. They gave him his large parts of his methodology, just like Baldwin learned large parts of his methodology from not just trial and error, but from these entities telling him to do it. This is this is a verbatim quote of his off of Deep End, the Battle for Human Souls episode. And this is him relaying a conversation he had. So it's his verbatim of a conversation he had with Jesus in the past. And he says, he's talking to Jesus, channeling Jesus, and he doesn't call it channeling. And he says, is Phil, which is the patient's altar that he's speaking Jesus through, is Phil, who he's been channeling, is Phil actually a part of this person's identity? Like, is this an altar I've been talking to for these months, or is this somebody else? And Jesus says, no. And he says, is Phil an angel? And Jesus says, yes. You mean to tell me I've been getting dynamics of programming altars and how to address certain issues explained to me over months by an angel? After that, I started to meet many more, and other people that I would sit down would have different angels that would come forward. So once you get one, then they just start popping up out everywhere, and they all just knew him. And they were like, yeah, we're going to help you out with this whole healing process. And he learned it over many months by channeling an angel, and Jesus confirmed it, so you know it's true. That's what he claims.
Isn't that a daisy?
Right. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, but I got plenty more to hit whenever you're ready.
No, I mean, it's kind of like how you'd said, it's almost like spiritual permission, or like, vampirism. The vampire can't come in unless you invite it. So it's kind of like that's the what's the Seventh-day Adventist or Jehovah's Witness knocking at the door. You say let them come in and get a drink of water. Next thing you know, you're on that list, and everybody starts pouring in.
Oh yeah, man. And it's like they just, once they have a new concept in the mind of the asset that they're trying to coax into this frame of mind and this new framework and evolve their cosmology, then you can start introducing a lot of things, which is what he says about pre-Adamic memories, which we'll get into that in a bit. But, he says once he had his pre-Adamic memory, boom, he can access everybody else's instantly. And he thinks God is like playing it out for him in this sequential order so he can handle it, or it's demons manipulating him, obviously.
Yeah, somebody had said in the chat, I can't remember who it is, forgive me, if you guys are still here, give me a shout out in the chat. I'll give you a recommendation there because it was your idea. But somebody in the chat earlier when you was talking about this stuff said it sounded a lot like Joseph Smith. And now that you had mentioned it and you got to that part of it, I was like, the pre-Adamic thing, because what they believe is, God is on this other planet, and he has all these consorts, and he has sex with all these consorts, and they produce these spirit babies, and these spirit babies are, drowning out in heaven. It's, it's all asshole and elbows to them, so they need to make room. So his people are commanded to breed as much as possible. That's why they tell them to get multiple wives and have such big families, because God is up there at another planet reproducing at such a rate that he can't provide for his spirit family, so therefore he needs to get some adoption going on into planet Earth.
And what's God supposed to do? Just slow down and stop banging all these hot women? Like, nah, he's God. He's going to do what he wants to do. That's as he should. Yeah. There's no way to slow that train down. So you got to expand in the universe, of course. But yeah, another thing Dan talks about, which is problematic in my opinion, is soul fragments, alters of yourself. Like, let's say you're traumatized as a 6-year-old from whatever happened, some really bad stuff, and you're so traumatized, your soul fragment splits off at that moment, and it'll stay 6 years old forever, and it be able to be channeled and be able to conversate and have its own mind, its own entity. And you can find this child in your inner world, and in your inner world vision, you can meet. It'll look like a 6-year-old child version of you in your inner world that you're encountering, and they will talk to you, and you can communicate with them like they're a separate entity. And they will basically act like a kid. They'll talk like a 6-year-old, and you have to ask them to reintegrate with you. Say, hey, you ask Jesus to come on the scene, to come onto the inner world. You will see Jesus show up in the vision, and angels, and you will ask Jesus to meet the little soul fragment kid and heal him, and then you'll be like, okay, now you have to ask him to reintegrate with you. And he also talks about integrating with your soul, which we'll talk about in a second, or your spirit. I don't know if it's either soul or spirit, and they're different. And he's like, I'm the soul. No, I'm the spirit. This is the soul. It's one of the two. Anyway, so he has soul fragments to integrate, and you have to consent and ask them to, and they gladly do. And you have to ask your spirit or soul to integrate with you. You don't have to, but you should, because it'll empower you spiritually, like it has for Dan. And
bless you even financially, he said, right?
He did say it would fix your finances. It'll get them fired up, which is kind of a funny twist in here. But yeah, so I guess I should talk about his version of that, where he, on the deep end, talks about this exact situation. Not about his fragment, but about his spirit integration. And he says, I'm not going to read the quote, I'm just going to summarize it because I have it memorized. He basically says that he one day, early in his ministry, like early days, like 2012 or something, he feels an entity make himself known while he's in his apartment. And he feels this entity, he can feel it, like he just knows it's 12 feet tall, Nephilim height, kind of weird. He says it's 12 feet tall, and he can feel its presence, and that is about to speak to him. And he thinks that its head is going to be through the roof, because it's so tall, and that it'll be speaking down on him. And he actually says that he hears it speaking from his heart, from inside of him. Weird. And he says that this entity is his spirit, and it's saying things to him that Jesus was talking about with him earlier, and that he recorded in his prayer journal, which is where he's potentially automatic writing or something of that nature, where he's talking to Jesus through some source in his inner world, and then writing down what Jesus says. So he says this spirit said things that Jesus said to him, so he's thinking, oh, this is one of Jesus' guys, and he's like, no, I'm your spirit. I'm part of you. Now, I don't know whose idea it was, if it was the spirit's idea or if it was Dan's idea, but he eventually asks the spirit to integrate with him. He asks it to, and he says ever since then, his spiritual drought ended. He hasn't had any spiritual drought since then. He's had constant access to information since then, and he also teaches all of his students to do this. He says if you integrate your spirit, your prayer journal will begin to look like the book of Revelation. That's a pretty much verbatim quote. What does that mean? You're going to be getting prophecies of the future, and you're going to be getting a lot of divination type information from your spirit that is already connected to you, but you have to ask it to integrate with you. Does any of this sound biblical to you by chance? No way. It does. Why would the Bible not tell us to do this if we had to do this, or if it makes us better Christians? I didn't.
Yeah, it seems
and
pretty important.
It does. He doesn't warn. He doesn't even warn against a potential deceiving spirit masking as your spirit, because we know there's spirit guides that people merge with, and there's higher selves that people merge with and consent to do in the same way, which those are demons, of course. But I'm saying if they already mask as other characters to deceive you into getting consent, why would you not warn? No, make sure you're calling upon your actual spirit at least, and not a demon masking as one, because that could be risky. He never brings up the idea of a masking demon, as if they're not allowed to do it, which they've already admitted they can mask as Jesus. They can definitely mask as anything else if they can do that. They've already admitted that in other parts of the SRT lore. So, and I already knew that was true, because he's got to be masking it with Dan. Because if you're channeling Jesus and angels and it's not really Jesus and angels, then that's a demon masking as such. And I didn't know you could channel Jesus, so I just find the whole thing kind of obvious. But a lot of people seem to think he's just he's the new apostle. You know, he's the new book of Daniel. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just the guy. Yeah. But it's just why would you not warn people of deception? That seems kind of ridiculous. But there's more. Wait, there's more. I got to drink some water. I'm dehydrated. I don't know if you have anything.
Nope, I just clicked the mute button. I was typing to answer somebody's question in the chat there. Somebody had said, how in the world does he get on Christian channels for interviews? This is a lot. And I was about to say, because, I mean, if we're just being honest, people want clicks, and clicks equal dollar signs, and that kind of corrupts some people, where they'll have anybody on their show, and the wilder and crazier the accusations, the better, because that means the more clicks, and that means the more money. I've even heard, I ain't name dropping, but I've even heard somebody, big name in our Christian sphere of podcasting, asked them, how do you discern, what's real and what's not? Because they got some pretty wild stuff on their show, and they were like, I don't. I have a show to make money and talk about these things, and I just let people tell their story, and it's up to the listener to decide what's real and what ain't.
There's no pushback from these big people sometimes, man, and it's upsetting to me, because I at least ask him some hard questions, which, Taylor on the Deep End has not really done, and I won't reveal too much, but, I don't think he's nefarious at all. I think he's just been deceived by this guy, and he recently reached out, and, he watched my interview about Dan, and he's now not a fan, but he's trying to be, he's trying to help me reach out to him and try to be, fix things with him, hopefully. I don't know if that's possible, but I can appreciate the effort. But he got him big. Like, Taylor had him on 5 times, got him millions of views collectively. Very influential figure. Good guy, just, should have pushed back harder, and I told him that. And I just think this needs to, we can't be supporting this man. I don't like the idea of having to attack a fellow brother in Christ, but he's technically doing demonic doctrine and giving it to Christians, so I don't feel terrible about it. I just wish it didn't have to be like this. But it's there's plenty of stuff to talk about, man. I got a couple more, and I won't try to keep you all day. But there is also now this isn't in my book. I wrote it in my book physically because I found it recently, and I don't know how I missed this the first time. But in the Confessionals episode with Dan, which he also doesn't really push back on him. Love you, Tony. Just be a little bit less nice sometimes. He talks about astral travelers and stuff, and Dan is saying basically, oh, we don't do none of that occult stuff. We don't do we don't do astral travel. But he says there is this is a quote, this is a holy way to engage with the astral plane in the spirit world that it does not require demonic practices. I spend a lot of time in Christ maneuvering things in the second heaven realm. We are changing lives, destinies, timelines. So he just said, no, I don't do the whole demonic out-of-body stuff, but I do maneuver the second heaven. He says it just like that, in Christ. Now, that's basically saying you astral travel, but with Jesus. Yeah, exactly. You're saying you're astral traveling, but with Jesus, so it's okay. That's what he's saying.
Right.
And he admitted to that on air and doesn't really talk about it much. And I've had people reach out to me who were in his inner circle for years and validated that as a true statement, which, like I just said, he admitted to it. So that's already problematic. And now I need to say there's Christians who believe astral travel is like the astral realm is real, which I try to prove in my first episode that it's not even real. It's fake simulations to deceive you. But they also cater to Christian mystics who go out of body. They cater a cosmology that's more friendly to them in the Bible, somewhat, but still expansive. And they'll have astral intercessors who think they were chosen by God. Listen to Members episode of Confessionals 848 with Jade. Nice guy, means well, but he's deceived and he thinks he was chosen by God to be an astral intercessor when he was 8 years old. And he's been going out of body ever since and says, no, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I was chosen by God because we got to fight the black magic with white magic is what he's basically saying. And I think he's deceived and deceiving more into getting interested in the whole project, into astral travel like I was myself. But in a Christian framework, which means they're going to give you simulations that are somewhat catering to that, but still expansive and non-biblical, by the way. And there's a pattern of that throughout the lore. So it's dangerous, and we can't let people think that it's not only a good idea, but that it's real. We need to let people know that this is not even really happening. This is a simulation, and admittedly so in many ways, like I covered in the first episode. So that's what I want to get on Confessionals to talk about, because Tony, love him, but he promotes this whole, it's real, it's a real place, we can go there, we just shouldn't. And I'm like, no, we need to let people know it's a fabrication, because that will change a lot of the way we view these things and how to handle it. And Duval is promoting that it's a real place, and he does it technically. So not good, not Christian.
And I'm a believer in the supernatural. There's a lot of people want to say, oh,
yeah,
a lot of people want to strip supernatural away. And a good example is like Micah Turnbow. When he first come on the scene. Now listen, now hear me out. When he first come on the scene,
I know all about it.
No, you don't.
Okay, you're right.
When he first come on the scene, my spider senses was going off. I mean, like I said, I got a pretty good bullshit meter, and it was going off. And this is before I had this show. I was on the Dig Bible podcast, and my buddy Steve found him and pointed me to him, and I was just like, nah, something's off. And then I found out, that he used to be, homosexual. And then like some of his, hear me out. He claimed he used to be a homosexual, and then some of the, visions and stuff that he was having. And I was like, don't be judgy. People can change. And I was like, I'll talk to him.
Oh yeah.
So I had him on the show, and I told people on that show, I'm like, this is hard for some people to understand. I said, but I want to say this. I said, the things he's talking about are not unbiblical. Prophets have had visions. They've had encounters, and all this kind of stuff. I said, so people hear that and automatically want to discredit it and turn it off. I'm like, guys, we believe in death. We believe in resurrection. We believe in miracles. All the stuff we profess is supernatural as hell. So for us just to dismiss someone talking like this is kind of, hypocritical. So I was like, just hear the man out and let's hear what he has to say. And so that's one thing I stressed, and I had a couple conversations with him, but it was shortly after that I had done had those conversations, he started making these other comments online. about then all of a sudden, Jesus appeared in front of him and kissed him, and that he was naked and masturbating in front of Christ. Christ caught him masturbating.
He wants an intimate relationship with us. It's sexual.
This dude is so wicked, man. He's not wicked. Let me refuse that. He's in the very least very, very deceived. And
I think he's
I
deceived.
told my ex-wife at the time, I was like, if this is, truly encounters, I believe he is having encounters, but it's not with who he
They're
thinks
deceptive.
he is. And
they can
so
mask as angels and Jesus
he
for
sits
decades,
on his lap and he kisses him on the lips and gets naked in front of him. I'm like, why would God tempt someone with a past sin? Because he used to be a homosexual. Then why would you kiss him? Why would you allow him to sit on your lap? Why would you strip
I've never
naked
heard
in
of
front
God doing
him?
that anywhere in the Bible or any
and
encounter.
So after that fact, you know what I mean? I was like, no, I reject this guy. But I still, maybe I should take him down. But I had them on my channel, and like I said, they're old. They're 4, 5, 6 years ago. But I still get some grief from some people, and I'm like, hey, man, just because I had somebody on my show doesn't mean I agree with them. But
yeah.
I don't know. With hindsight being the way it is, maybe I should go back and just remove those off the channel.
Well, and it's important to remember that for anybody still doubting after all I've gone through, that these demons can impersonate visually and seer type visions and otherwise impersonate Jesus, God, angels, etc. If you think there's a law they can't do that, you are sorely mistaken. And if you don't believe me, then you think that God is gay and having gay sex with his followers. Because I don't believe this man is making this all up. I think he's having encounters. They're just deceptive, demonic ones that have a lot of false vision aspects to it. And whether he's encountered in dreams or visions or seeing in the real realm, he says he's been seeing angels since he was a little kid and he plays with them. And I'm like, dude, the entire time, his entire life, it's been demons, and it's sad. It's a really sad thing because I'm sure his heart's in the right place for the most part, but he's allowed this thing to overpower him, and there's some sort of ego thing to it for real, like this whole I'm special aspect to it, which adds to it, and it kind of twists your whole mind.
We all want to be
framework.
special, you know what I mean? If we're being honest, we all want to be special. We all want to feel valued.
But I'm not going to put that over truth,
important.
ultimately.
Yeah, but everybody's different. There's some people out there that get on some of these shows and tell some stuff and stories and stuff that I think's just completely bogus. But it's like Mike Heiser said, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there, but all it takes is one to be true. And you can't bucket everybody into this basket. But yeah, some people, they just want to feel important. They want to feel special. They want to feel loved. They want their 15 minutes of fame or whatever, and they will. Some people will, concoct some of the craziest stories for attention,
Yeah, I think there's more demonic deception utilizing people than there is people making this stuff up, for the most part. I think that accounts for way more and explains way more of the discrepancies we deal with, more so than just attention whores fabricating the entire thing. Because there's a lot of people who, they seem like they really believe what they're saying, and I think it's because they do, and there's some legitimacy to the experience of it. Just, it's, once you understand this vision control thing and this psychic information data control is completely facilitated and controlled by them, and every little detail is, once you understand that, all this stuff starts to make sense, which is why I'm trying to make this a whole three-parter thing, and part 3 would be a reincarnation direct debunk of that. But this is important because this lore is showing that even without the first episode of the astral travel control stuff, which is very in your face and a lot of admissions they have, even without that, I can prove the vision control concept just by the existence of these practices that are clearly showing incompatible lore, both healing, but they're at the same time, they're catering to the person facilitating it, to the practitioner, and they have visions accompanying it, which are obviously fake because they don't make sense in a lot of ways. So if they can control those visions, the whole astral stuff isn't much more out there, which I already covered in episode 1 and all the evidence there. So it's just it's staying on that whole theme, but showing how false healings are, inflicting Christians now to a great degree. So I want to continue just a couple more things and maybe do a closer rant, but I have a few more fun ones here. One is a story Dan talks about, and I'll just summarize it here, but he talks about it on the Battle for Human Souls Deep End episode, and he's talking about his client and what they're seeing in their mind's eye vision. And in vision, this client says they see Dan's spirit in the inner world, and it came into their view fully armored, and he's running and tackles this fire demon. So Dan's spirit comes into his inner world, tackles a fire demon, and just starts punching it in the face over and over, right? In the spirit. Okay, so he sees this, and then 15 minutes later, so Dan continues his prayers. Right. So Dan continues his prayers and with Jesus, he says, and moves on with the session while he's punching him with the spirit. So 15 minutes later, the client reports that they see Dan's spirit is still punching the fire demon in the face for 15 minutes straight, uninterrupted, and he's not even conscious, and he hasn't been conscious for a while. So this demon's knocked out unconscious in the spirit. I guess that can happen. I don't know. And it's just getting pummeled by this really masculine, testosterone-fueled spirit of Dan, and it's kind of
Don't be rude.
it's just showing the visualizations how crazy they're getting with it and how silly it is. Now, if you want to hear the most crazy visualization or at least the most silly concept I've maybe encountered so far, this one will really get you feeling some type of way. This was in Hackers of the Spirit Realm, Deep End Podcast, 20 minutes in. He talks about, he says, Jesus will come into the inner world sometimes. He always does. And he'll come into the inner world and he will encounter, if he's encountering altars, spirit fragments of yourself, and let's say they're not getting integrated yet for whatever reason, he says that he will give these little altars, which are little child versions of you or little teenage versions of you, cut off, and they have their own intelligence. They're split off from you, and they're your soul fragment. Jesus will give them water guns, super soakers, metaphysically, filled with living water, the biblical living water, and they will use these water guns, the altars in your mind's eye, to shoot demons that approach to banish them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's this is what he says. I'm not joking. And he says that Jesus will do that. I'm like, I don't think Jesus ever gave anybody water guns in the Bible for that. I think he just banished them immediately. I don't see the point in all that. And the person's visualizing this. I have to remind people, because they don't seem to get that, they are seeing it, not just hearing it channeled. So it's very lucrative here. Now we got to talk about pre-Adamic memories, which are the Christian rebrand of past life memory regression. It's the same concept. You get into a trance state with the patient, and instead of getting rid of these attachments, you can also do past life therapy, or with Dan, pre-Adamic therapy, because he says just like past life therapy, it's the same thing. If you relive your past life memory or traumatic event or death or whatever it is, you can fix and heal problems that have arisen because of that in your current life. Like they're cycles, and they repeat because that's the structure of the universe. And if you relive a past life memory, it will heal you. If you relive a pre-Adamic memory, it can heal you. That same logic, same concept. And he says, what does he say? So he says many of these pre-Adamic memories seem to show pre-Adamic souls getting captured and abducted by, dark fallen angel forces, and then you are forcibly hybridizing with demonic fallen angel spirits, and they are creating pre-Adamic spirit Nephilim. So you're like, oh, that sounds biblical. It's like trying to sound biblical, but it's making shit up. And I'm not saying we had no pre-existence of the soul before this. I lean away from it, but what do I know? I don't have an answer to that. The Bible doesn't seem to push that, but who knows? But he's saying there's pre-Adamic Nephilim from the old earth, but they're in the spirit form, so not even in the physical, which is, strange.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's
according
just
to the book of Enoch, they're demons. The disembodied spirits of the Nephilim are the demons, right?
Which the Nephilim came about before the flood, after Adam, though, not before that. So It's kind of like it's expansive in a way that doesn't really make sense. But you can wiggle your way any lore into anything if you really force it. Now
a partial truth, then I guess, just enough to
be
like, oh yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, that makes sense.
The concept is within the Bible, so it must make sense. But they're just rebranding and adding their own stories. So Dan talks about he first got a hold of this whole pre-Adamic concept because he had his own pre-Adamic memory, and that's what activated this whole mission for him. And, well, before that, he has a vision. So he gets a very crazy vision in a dream. And in this dream, he is transported through a portal, and in this portal, he lands in space, and he's in the middle of space, and there's a giant scroll in the sky, or in the space that he's around, and this giant scroll opens up and starts fanning past him really quickly, he says. Like so fast to where he can only read bits and pieces. And the bits and pieces he reads, he gathers that he's reading about pre-Adamic war, pre-Adamic conflicts, pre-Adamic acts of betrayal, acts of heroism with the different clashing factions. This pre-Adamic history. He's reading it, but not getting a lot of detail, because if they give him too much detail, it might sound a little made up. So they're giving him just bits and pieces to make it seem like a big thing. And he's transported to meet with the Holy Spirit, who he says is a super nice guy, and I bet he is. And he says it's the best conversation. He just feels filled with love. He feels so good. It makes him so happy to be talking to him. Can demons make you feel really good when you're talking to him? I feel like they can. I feel like we've talked about that. Anyway, so he feels good.
That's
and
what she said.
yeah, right. So this Holy Spirit character might be the real guy, might not be, is basically pushing him to uncover this pre-Adamic stuff, basically saying, we're choosing you for this mission, and you're the guy. You're the chosen one. You're Neo, and you're going to unravel this whole pre-Adamic thing that needs to come out. And he's loving it, and he's like, okay, heck yeah. And
I'm surprised he doesn't say a woman, because all the Gnostic stuff that's interwoven into this, how Gnosticism sees the Holy Spirit as Sophia, you know?
It's maybe it's too on the nose. It's too risky. They're playing it not even safe, but they're playing it relatively safe, you could say. And they're also catering to what they think he'll believe, and they can read his mind and know what he'll think about that in advance, probably. So you got to keep that in mind. So then we got to talk about Dan's personal vision, or personal pre-Adamic memory that he relived. And I'll just read the quote because it's kind of funny. And he says he remembers. This is early.
Nobody's here now is jealous over our hair, Seth. He said he misses his hair.
Well, I'm sorry to make you feel jealous about it, but I would share it if I wasn't so attached to it myself physically and emotional. So you just give it a couple years, bro, and you'll be like us, or however long it takes you. But yeah, and some people say I look like a lesbian sometimes, and I'm just gonna own it because I'm a lesbian for Christ, if anything. Let's see, where was I at? Okay, so this is his quote about him being the pre-Adamic general in the pre-Adamic, right? And I'm gonna read it verbatim. This is a deep end quote on his Hackers of the Spirit Realm episode, 1 hour 48 minutes 43 seconds in. And he stutters through it because he knows he shouldn't be talking about this. And I'm going to try to stutter just like he did because I wrote it down that way. So this is on purpose. This is not on accident. So he says, my job in the pre-Adamic age was a general. I actually ran a military campaign. And early on in that military campaign, and this came by way of memories, like I actually started to remember some stuff. We had a lot of challenges. There was a lot of betrayal, a lot of shiftiness. People that were part of the military campaigns, the spirits, they were not loyal. They were defecting. They all kinds of stuff. So it was like chaos, and it was a process, and a difficult process of tightening the ship so that we could shut down that activity and really hit a slipstream of success as we were really fighting for the Lord. And in these pre-Adamic wars, well, lo and behold, I come into this world, and it's like time to start a ministry. So what did I expect in the early days of my ministry? Like every time we even just got going for a few months with an employee, there was an implosion. I couldn't get a team of support around me at all for years. That's what he said. I almost got it 100% right. He was a pre-Adamic general, and he didn't really get detailed at all. He just kind of like bullshits around the topic and stutters. And he was a general, so he was special, he was high level, and he's doing great work for God in this life, so it makes sense that he would cycle in and be someone cool in the past life. But it's a little bit too similar to the past life memories, but it's rebranded. And why does no past life memory therapist ever have any mention anywhere that I can find accessing a pre-Adamic soul memory like anything like he talks about? And also he never experiences opening up past life memories of people as a human, which, by the way, people have had many, many of both. So why are they not overlapping? And they seem to be catered to the practitioner here. That seems weird. Is it just the prompting is off? Is that all it is? I don't know how they can coexist, though. Now, an important thing here, and this isn't in my book, but I talk about this now because I heard him recently, or I followed him talk about it recently. I always wondered, what did he have an explanation for reincarnation memories that people are accessing? Like, does he believe those are fake implanted memories? Because that would totally throw a wrench in his whole thing if you admit that. So no, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say they're getting fake memories. He says people getting past life memories are, and I'm not saying verbatim, but he's basically said they are getting real memories, he believes, but they're not of them in a past life. They are DNA-locked, ancestral passed-on memories, right? Now, for that to be true...
Man. That sounds so much like Darby.
Yeah,
I think I
believe
mentioned that
Darby
last
says it.
episode. Yeah, Jeremy Darby. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but he says that, and here's the thing. To say that means you've done maybe less than 5 minutes of reincarnation research because it doesn't match the data even a little bit. And I'll elaborate by saying to be passed on from your DNA and your bloodline, that means all of your past life memories would have to be within your bloodline, within your family. And most people's past lives they relive are the last one. So that would have to be like their grandpa or great grandpa or maybe even father. If it's locked into it would have to be their memories, right? Which is not the case. Now, there are a handful of people who reincarnate within the family, usually cousins or uncles or something, not direct like grandpa, great grandpa. It's usually split off. That happens, yes, but the vast, vast majority of cases are totally strangers. They will, now if you look in the data of Ian Stevenson's 2,500 cases, not using regression, but children's memories, which we talk about in part 3 if we ever get there, and how that's explained away. But he uses the children because he doesn't think they can lie, and I don't think they're lying, they're just deceived. And when you get into the data of his 2,500 cases, all of these people are reincarnated, like 99% of them have a 1 to 3 year gap between incarnations. So they die, and then 1 to 3 years later, they're back. Some of them are 5 or 20 years in the future between, but most of them are like within that like 18 month or so. And they're usually, not always, within 100 miles away, right? They're not in the same family almost ever, but they're about 100 miles away. And I think the reason they choose people close by is so that they can go and meet that family and then go get data to try to validate and create mythology. That's what I believe is happening. That's part 3 data, whatever. So to say that they're locked in the DNA means they have to be all within the same bloodline, which is not the case most of the time. And the 1 to 3 year gap is also weird because people are reliving memories sometimes from the distant past, 500 years ago, and sometimes often it's the last life they lived. So if it's the last life they lived, it would have to be like their grandpa or father's memories, maybe their great grandpa, which is never the case almost ever, maybe like a few times here and there. So it doesn't make any sense, and that's what he says explains past life memories. And if he says they are visions controlled by demons, he's going to look like a real asshole. So he can't say that, and I don't think he even thought of that or will consider it because it has implications for his own work. But that's obviously a big discrepancy there. I don't know if you have anything for me, bro.
Hee-haw, hee-haw.
Amen.
No.
Amen. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I'm going to say one more thing on Duval real quick, and then I'll try to do a quick little closing rant if that's cool. But there's more in the book, so buy the book if you want more, but I'm just going over the key stuff. There is a Facebook group called Victims of Dan Duval and Bride Ministries, and last time I checked, it had like 210 members or so, and I posted my book and my podcast covering him on it, so they know about it. But the fact that this exists is problematic. That's 200 people that are just feel they've had very bad outcomes from his practice in the long or short term, who knows, or with his training sessions some people are involved with. And that's just the people who joined a Facebook group. How many people are not in the Facebook group that have a problem with him? I don't know. But having 200 is already enough to be like, this should be worth mentioning. So I don't know if you, if that is shocking to anybody here, but because some people had really good experiences, but it doesn't mean other people had the same.
Right. And that's the thing too, is it really muddies the water when you get into emotions. How it makes you feel, and if someone feels something or they think they got something, a healing or whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it really muddies the water because a lot of times, emotions can override, facts. Emotions can make you blind to certain things. I'm sure there's lots of us, especially in the chat, let me know.
Talking to you ladies.
Yeah, let me know if you agree, but
sorry.
I'm sure we've all, been in love, with someone that was either, a liar, a cheater, a drug addict, or whatever.
But they made you feel real good,
Yeah, you felt good with them, but the signs were there, and you just ignored them, or maybe you truly didn't see them, but you were blinded by that feeling that you got when you were with them. And then once you separated, everybody starts coming forward and be like, oh man, did you see this, this, and this? Oh, it outraged me that they did this, this, and this. I can't believe you didn't see this. And it's just like, Yeah, because the emotions were muddying the water and overclouding your judgment and your reasoning.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. And that is the overall pattern that's taking place in all these practices. They make you feel special. They make you feel good because they can chemically hijack you. They can impress thoughts upon you. And the more you allow it, the more control they have. The more you're protected by the Holy Spirit, the more you live a good life, the less influence, the less external influence you will be had upon you. And I'll get into it more in a minute, but like, you know, I know we're focusing on demons a lot here and their deception, and this is something that needs to be talked about because it's having a lot of negative effects and trickle-down effects. But I'm not and I know I wrote a whole book about it, but I'm not someone who every time something's wrong at the drop of a hat, I'm like, oh, it's a demon. You know, it's even if they're involved, they're only involved as much as we allow them to be with our consents we've given. And divination's a big one, but sinning is the, you know, ultimate. You know, it's a balance. The more you sin, the more you're opening up. The more you do occult practice, the more you're opening up. And the more you open up, the less you're yourself, because you're merging slowly with demons until they, at the deepest case, possess you. But that requires some level of acknowledgement and agreement to be fully possessed. But to be partially heavily demonized and influenced and part of them, it does not take much more than a life of major sin. And people need to know that how they live in covenant with Christ is going to be their ultimate healing. I'm not saying SRA and MKU victims don't deserve some extra special care. I'm sure they do, and there's different agreements that were made in the past that make things a lot more complex. But this whole renunciation of all these specific, complex metaphysical things that may or may not exist doesn't seem like the way Christ would want us to handle it. And even I'm going to get into it in a minute. I want to read a verse, and then I'm going to go on a rant in that vein that I think is very important to make. But I do want to say that there's a verse I think that talks about Dan Duval very directly and people like him and what his practice is doing. And it's Matthew 7:22-23. And it says, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. This is a Bible verse telling you there will be a time when people think they're casting out demons in the name of the Lord, and they are literally practicing lawlessness, doing stuff that God does not approve of. But they do it in his name, and it seems to be working because they believe they're casting out demons. So it must be working. Is it because they're really casting them out from authority, or because demon's strategy is manipulating them using it as strategy? That verse is not giving you all the details, but it's leaving little room for interpretation other than what I'm saying is happening here. And I think Dan Duval absolutely applies to this. And I don't want this to happen to that man. I hope that he sees the error of his ways and sees he's been deceived so that he can, you know, be a testimony of, hey, this is how bad the deception is. We need to now, you know, get this out there. I don't think it's super likely, but I'm open to it and I'm praying for it. So I just think that verse is really interesting, and people should understand that the Bible talks about this exact situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And who else would it be talking about? But I want to do a quick... Oh, you go ahead, though.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, you know, like that old cliche saying, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. It could be that this is part of his faith journey, to experience this and catch all those people's attention that believe in this kind of thing, and then for him just to see the light come out of it and change the minds and hearts of all those other people. You know, we don't
That would
know.
be badass. I'm praying for it. I hope he does, man. I'm reaching out to him really soon, as soon as I get his contact, because I want to make sure he sees it and not just send it to an email he might not ever find. But that'll happen soon, and he's going to go one way or the other about it.
To Yah in the chat threw out a good tidbit, random. It was kind of random, but don't live in sin. Don't have sex before marriage.
Gosh, yeah, I already messed that one up. But I'm going to be born again. I mean, I've been celibate for a while now, but let's see if I have the strength to continue. I just keep going on podcasts and being all freaky, and the girls it's repellent, man. It's great. It's working out for me really well, actually. But I had enough fun in the sun, you know, so I don't I don't have much worries.
That's why I got
that.
These glasses. You know, they call them the birth control glasses. It kind of keeps the ladies at bay, you know.
I think you look good in them, man. I don't know if it's going to work.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, God. Anyway, we're done with the Duval stuff for the most part, but I do want to do a quick rant that I think is very important to touch on, because people are going to hear this and go, okay, well, he's doing deliverance wrong. He's doing a demonic deceived version. Okay, well, other people are doing it right. What about all these Christians and Catholics and people doing exorcisms? Those practices, are they all flawed? I'm not going to say they're all flawed 100%, but I'm going to say I believe that a lot of exorcisms and practices and methodology is problematic and not I think it's deception too. I think it's I think they deceive you as much as they can get away with. And they can't just get away with doing the Duval stuff with everybody because they're not going to fall for it. But they cater to their audience. And they're doing acting in these channelings. They're doing acting by maintaining these very, very calculated visions constantly. They're acting when they possess people to make sure people don't find out they're possessing them. They're acting controlling who knows what actors and world leaders on the world stage. They are acting in many of our movies, literally, I'm sure. If they are so good at acting and so dedicated to it, one, why can't they be meat suits in alien bodies, first of all, and just playing a role? That's just a side tangent. But two, how do we know they're not acting when they are in these exorcisms, puffing their chests and being all violent and feral and acting like monsters whenever they're so calm and calculated and, presumably human-like whenever they're trying to be undercover? If they're capable of that, how do we know they're not acting whenever they're doing these violent, insane, horrific exorcisms where they are acting like, monstrous beasts, essentially, and doing all these supernatural things? I think those things happen, but I think it's part of the act. And people, when you talk to exorcists, when you look into the research, the Bible isn't giving us clear instructions on how to do this. They don't even tell us to do this. They tell the apostles and their story, and we learn from their story, but they're not ordering Christians to do this. And I think if they did, it'd be problematic, and it'd be a much more common thing that would be not working, and demons would exploit that. And I think they are exploiting it, and these exorcists say they learn a lot of their methodology from trial and error, not from the Bible, because the Bible doesn't give us all the details on this. It's authority-based and in Christ. Why are these exorcisms taking hours and days often? Why are they taking so long? If it's an authority in Christ, it should be pretty immediate. I think these demons are like, oh, well, my cover's blown, I'm caught. They're not going to leave me alone until I leave, or at least assume to leave or pretend to leave. So they might as well go out with a big bang and put on a show and make a caricature of demon to make you think that they're not strategically cohesive like they are, and make them think that they're more violent and crazy. Because if you and then they can teach you methodology like, oh, you got rid of me whenever you said this certain verse. Okay, I'll leave right then because you're going to think that verse is going to get rid of me. And then next time you do that, it may not work, but it still builds this idea of like, okay, well, this worked this time and this worked this time, so these are going to be my methods I try the next exorcisms. And they're teaching these exorcists methodology just in a much less problematic way than Duval. It's less problematic, but it's still, I think they're putting on a show. If they're not cast out immediately in authority, then your methodology is already wrong. And I think a lot of it has to do with the heart of the possessed individual. I'm not saying they're all bad people. I'm just saying you have to agree to be possessed, and it takes a while to get there, requiring a lot of sin and lack of repentance. And until they truly do that, like truly in their heart, I don't know if these rituals and magic is going to get rid of them. I think it has to be a combination of the two. And I'm not an expert on all the details there. I just know they cater so much their teachings in all these ways to people indirectly and directly by being very subtle and calculated and intelligent. And now they're putting on a show and being all stupid and super, surface level evil in the other exorcisms. And they're playing a character because they don't want you to know their true identity. And they're a hive mind Borg, and they're all connected to each other, so they have access to all this information. Can you hear me? Am I still there?
Yep.
Okay, my screen went away. Anyway, so I just think that that's important to put out there because I forgot to talk about it in my other episodes a little bit. But I just think spiritual warfare and attacking these things needs to be reframed as proclaiming the gospel more than anything, more so than these rituals and these methodologies that these exorcisms push. I'm sure some of them might be working for some people for the more extreme cases, but I'm not going to be promoting it and a fan of the vast majority of it because I think it's all the same game being played. Am I making sense?
No. I mean, I definitely see all the connective tissue that you laid out, and like you had shown all those different examples too. The bones are the same. You might have different flesh suit and clothes and terminology for it, but the characteristics are the same. There's a lot that rhymes.
Yeah, and they can't coexist and be healing people. Now, some people have said to me, "No, you're wrong. It's not demons orchestrating this whole thing. It is the belief in the healing that allows you to be healed." And I'm not saying there's no layer to the belief that's important.
Well, even Jesus said, "Your faith has made you well."
So it says if you want to heal, you pray and fast, and you'll be healed. And I believe that. But here's the problem with that: if it's just belief, why then? how do you explain the entities involved? Because who's impressing the vision? The visions can't be real because they don't correlate with each. They can't coexist with each other because they don't share the same laws. And who is impersonating Jesus? Who is impersonating these angels? Who's impersonating these light beings? Like, it has to be entity involvement. So are entities involved tricking you with something you're willing to believe to make you believe that you can be healed by deceiving you? But they're the ones possibly inflicting the problem and then taking it away from you? If it's just your belief, why are entities involved giving you visions and giving you channeled information that contradicts each other that you're willing to believe? Why do they cater to you and deceive you to make you heal you that sounds like a very deceptive way to do a positive thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what people have said to me. I'm like,
Hegelian dialectic, or however you say that weird phrase. It's almost like the demons in the spirit realm taught this to the politicians.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, that's absolutely what they did. They've ultimately guided most of the large happenings of the world, in my opinion, indirectly or directly, whether people know it or not. And I just think it's, there's no explanation for the existence of all of this lore except the Bible. It is the only explanation for what's going on here, and specifically my vision control simulation theory, which shows that they can control all visionary experiences. And if people don't believe me, I maybe read some last time, but I'll just remind them of certain verses they can look up if they're interested. Jeremiah 14:14, and the Lord said to me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I have not sent them. They prophesy a false vision, divination, a worthless thing, and the deceit of their heart, catering to their heart, because demons will cater to your heart. Jeremiah 23:32, behold, I am against those who prophesy false dreams, says the Lord, and I tell them and cause my people to err by their lies and by their recklessness. Yet I did not send them or command them, therefore they shall not profit this people at all, says the Lord. Ezekiel 13:6-7, 2 Kings 22, the entire story. Jeremiah 23:16, Deuteronomy 13:1-3. They talk about false dreams, false visions, false divination. What is that referring to if it's not some sort of spiritual experience that is false and perpetrated by demonic or fallen angels? Does that mean they have certain manipulative ability to control these experiences and make you think something that's not true? It's kind of directly telling you, just with very little detail. But it's the same concept I'm talking about, and I'm very shocked I never hear people talking about the false vision control aspect, because it accounts for all of out-of-body travel, remote viewing, past life memories, this healing stuff. It accounts for all of it in a cohesive framework that is biblically aligned. So I just think that people need to be talking about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's the thing is, I think we mentioned it last episode, God is not the mean, nasty God and gives you all these rules because he's a jealous, controlling maniac. He's a loving father. Yeah, when you're a kid, you're told not to go play in the road. Yeah, you might really want to, and it might be fun to play in the road. And yeah, you might be able to play in the road and not get hit by a car, but they love you and they want you to avoid being in the road because the possibility of you getting hit. So therefore, yes, this... if this whole idea we're talking about, the astral realm and projection and all this other stuff is the road metaphorically. Yeah, you may be able to get into the road. The road is real. And you might be able to wander around that road and have a good time on that road and come back home and nothing ever happened to you. But you run the risk of getting your brain splattered all over the pavement by a fast-moving car. So therefore... that's why the rule come. Yeah, you can have fun in the yard. Stay out of the road.
Yeah, man. And, people have a real problem with Yahweh and his rules and and first of all, his rules are, optional. You can break all the rules and still be saved if you in your heart truly desire, trust in Jesus and have faith. So that's a pretty good deal. I mean, there's layers to that, I'm sure, but you're saved so easily just by accepting it, and the rules are optional and ideally and desired, yes, but you don't have to follow them to be saved. It's not like you can't join the club and be a flawed individual, because we all are, and I think he has the most fair system set up, but he has high expectations for his people, and he's very forgiving and merciful to all of them. So, people, if they're living a Christian life versus not, you're going to see people living the Christian life and following those covenants and rules, being a lot more healthy, happy, and adjusted to the world than everybody else who seems to be struggling with depression, anxiety, self-loathing, and all these things. If you haven't noticed a pattern of that with people in your life who there's certain belief systems, then you're not paying attention, because that pattern is prevalent. And they look for joy and happiness and hedonism and, the quick little moments that aren't really that deep. And I think the more we align ourselves with the biblical word and what God wants for us, we'll have that inner peace, and that, like, we don't need to understand everything despite us trying often. We don't need all the knowledge. We need moral progression and servitude and understanding that we're not good enough for what he's given us. So just some humility, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not unabashed ego or whatever it may be. So that's my other philosophical rant.
No, I agree 100%. That was the number one reason and downfall of Satan. Number one, his beauty, but then his pride and arrogance, and how puffed up he was. Humility, I believe, is the number one key. The first will be last.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man.
Not a conquering king, but a suffering servant. It's all about humility. And I think, like you said, once you realize how dirty, how messed up you are, but you're still forgiven and loved and told to come as you are, should make you feel this small. So a lot of people that have that 10-foot tall bulletproof Pharisaic, I'm so righteous, better than you people, they got it all wrong, brother. For those that are forgiven much, forgive much, and humility goes a long, long way.
Absolutely, man.
Well, brother, man, thank you so much for coming back, and I definitely want that part 3.
Oh yeah, we're ready.
So I guess before we close out, give us a little teaser of what part 3 will be, and let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, part 3 will be a reincarnation debunk, focusing on chapter 5 of my book, where I basically get into how the whole vision control thing, which is already kind of very well proven to be possible in parts 1 and 2, and how they can download full, non-autonomous memories into you. We're going to cover reincarnation, how the whole birthmark situation works, and how it all is framed within a deceptive model and is explainable, as well as talking about regression memories, children's memories that are recovered, the Ian Stevenson research, secret space programs, star seed stuff, SRA abuse, false memory implantation, which I'm not saying the abuse is, but I'm saying, like, there's things that go along with it that are to disqualify the rest of it. It's very complex. And just talking about all the fake memory implantation and how I have a cohesive understanding of how it can be all explained away in a biblical model. And finding my work, like I said, linktree.com/Sethlehem, and you can find my audiobook, which is free, my book physical, which you can buy for not that expensive, and you can find follow my YouTube account, where I'll be posting shorts and future interviews I'm doing. I'm doing not only posting my own interviews in a playlist, but I'm doing interviews on certain people. Tomorrow is my first one with my my male role model, Jed Baza, and he has, if anybody is listening right now, please watch this interview. It's going to be a breakdown of 2 things that is very major that I think he is ahead of the game on, and that's, 1, breaking down how eternal conscious torture in hell is not what we've been taught, and how he can disprove it biblically, scripturally, and his whole theories on that, and also the primordial origin of Satan, which he does not believe is a fallen angel, which I tend to concur with him, and biblically in the original text, it doesn't seem to promote that idea. And it's going to be a badass conversation with a real cowboy motherfucker. So, sorry I said MFer. I didn't mean to do that. But he's a badass, and I love him. So please watch that interview, posting sometime in the next few days. And it will be crazy. So that's what I am promoting right now. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Awesome, brother. Well, thank you for coming on, and I look forward to conversation number 3. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I hope you guys are enjoying these lives. This is something new. I'm really enjoying it myself, interacting with the chat. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out. And I guess we will see you Sunday night. We will pick back up on the Legends of the Jews Lewis Ginsburg series. We are now on episode 20. So come hang out, be a part of the live study Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, guys, remember, torches high. I haven't done that sign off in a while. Torches high.
If the path avoids the cross, it's not the truth. So we steal the fire.